Good morning, everybody. This is the Oskar Quentin Show, where we talk about politics and related matters with strangers on TikTok. There are no rules here. I'm in charge. Whatever I want to do happens today. That's the same every day. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube in VOD form, you can find a pinned comment with the call start time for the first call. Hopefully, they'll be in the description as well for all the other calls, but I'm very behind. But, you know, that's okay. I'm getting some relief. You guys are donating for 2 or 3. I'm not pregnant with twins, but I am hiring some people to help me run the show. So I guess the ad read might change slightly in tone, given that that's what's happening. Exciting things happening on the back end here at the Oskar Quentin Show. I should keep advertising that this Sunday evening, we are having an actual politician, Doug Chapin, who's trying to unseat Tom Emmer for Minnesota's 6th Congressional District, is going to be on my show at 7 p.m. Central Time on Sunday on YouTube only. That's not going to be a TikTok thing because of censorship, and I like to be able to have... For the planned interviews, I like to be able to really just not worry about the filter, and you can say pretty much anything you want on YouTube, so that's the idea there. Midwest Progressive and Anna are doing the work, sharing the live on TikTok. Get some W's in the chat for them. And for all the mods, for who do we have from the team? Ooh, wow, the queue filled up so quickly on TikTok, I don't even see all the mods. But we've got Raven, we've got Midwest. Who else do we have? We've got Katie and Viper and Tavi, the regulars over on YouTube. Fantastic. All right, let me just get this open. So I was a little bit rushed today. Last night was one of those nights where I was up late goofing off because I have a social life. So, well, it was kind of work. It started being work, and then it turned into goofing off. I was up very late. I didn't sleep well. But it was my own fault. Let's get the multi-guest request queue open so that if we get a caller, I know who it is. Why doesn't it want to open? There we go. There it is. Let's put that over there. I'm trying to get a little closer to the camera so I can get a little bigger in frame. But it has this piece of paper in the way of some stuff that I like to look at over there during the show. So we'll see. We'll see if this layout works. Another day where I didn't read the news, but I don't know. The Discord tends to alert me if there's anything that crazy that happens. The thing that's been very upsetting to me is these ICE protesters in Texas who have been given some very outlandish sentences for what they've done involving ICE. 30 to 100 years. I don't know. We had a conversation yesterday about how 35 years is probably too long for a 17-year-old to go to prison for anything. That's not true. I can imagine something a 17-year-old might do that would land them in prison forever. But you know what I mean. It's real hard to put somebody in prison for a long time. That's a big chunk of their life. And I just don't think that interfering with law enforcement is a reasonable thing to levy that kind of sentence for. This is clear weaponization of the Justice Department to scare people away from speaking out against ICE and you know, defending their rights. Fucking terrifying. That should be very scary, especially in consideration of the fact that the FBI just arrested 15 Minnesotans for doing similar type things. There's somebody who received a 30-year sentence, and to the best of my reading, all they did was move a box containing Antifa literature, which I would argue that if you had a box of like copies of the Constitution, that would be a box of Antifa literature. Right? Is it gonna stick, says Ashley. I don't know. We'll see. I gotta follow those cases. Well, I mean, they're sentenced, so they might be over, but I expect them to be appealed, of course. People are gonna try to fight back from all of that. Yeah, so I don't know. It's very, very scary. YouTube, why are you showing me this giant box of emojis? I want to see the chat. Can I make the emoji thing go away? Is this broken now? Is this just showing me emojis instead of the chat? I needed one heart to say good morning to somebody, and now half of my interface is emojis. Shoo. Found it. Okay, it's gone. I fixed it. Goodbye, emojis. Slow day. I feel like I'm getting callers really fast these days. There's usually some kind of troll in here. But the viewership is popping up. We got 200 people watching after a few minutes. That's good. Do I want some bacon? I always want bacon. I do not allow myself to have bacon when I want it, because that would be counterproductive to my running goals, because I'm a runner. That's what I do for my cardio anyway. Caitlin says, hi, Oscar. Hello, Caitlin. Who says no to bacon? You know, even like I'm a New Yorker and I grew up eating a lot of turkey bacon because the people who prepared my my breakfast walking down the street on the street corner in the street corner meat cart sort of thing very often people who are practicing Muslims and do not eat bacon, but they eat turkey bacon. Turkey bacon's pretty good. It doesn't taste anything like regular bacon, but it is a good alternative. That's the thing. It's like if you're trying to replace a food, it's like, are you trying to replace it exactly, or are you trying to get something that just works in the same situations? Anyway, hey, from Moose Lake, Minnesota. It has been a while since I've been through Moose Lake. Hello. Somebody doesn't like bacon or ranch? Get out of my stream, dude. Get out of here. Mikey says, Oscar, you need to have a sign that says MAGA, GYBAUH. Get your bitch ass. If it was an O, I would think out of here. My brain is not doing it. Tell me what it means. Does he only look at the TikTok chat? I'm getting better about that. I will admit I have had trouble getting my brain to recognize that there's two chats on the screen. Ever travel to Rochester? Yes. I've got some friends who live in Rochester, so I've been down there plenty. Canadian Vicky, I love you, but yes, Canadian Vicky is correct. I mostly do just look at the TikTok chat. Sir Brooks says, oh snap, he saw me. I'm not that famous, guys, come on. It is overwhelming, the chats. It's getting completely out of hand. That's why Sunday evenings we're going to do the members only stream, which, for a long time people were paying $5 here or there on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube for nothing, just because they like me, which is very much appreciated, but I felt very bad about that. Somebody in the chat is pointing out that it is worth noting that the protesters in Texas shot an officer. That is an important detail. And yeah, I didn't say that all of the sentencing is ridiculous. I just think that when they sweep people up in those sorts of things, like the idea that somebody moving literature is somebody like, unless it was an assassination where there was a planned scheme to go and find an officer, then you can start charging big groups of people who are involved with it. But if one person does something that is, where it does make sense to, put them away for decades, like also incarcerating people who knew that person for decades, that's fascistic, scary nonsense. We don't do that. We're not supposed to do that in America. That's it's not how it works. Oh, see, the queue's empty, but there should be one person in the queue. The person who should be in the queue is me, because I should get my second account in the request queue. I should accept myself in, and then I should mute myself. There we go. I can't talk while I hear myself. This is my backup account down here for when this one gets banned for, accidentally saying the truth a little bit too clearly or something like that. So if you want to follow Oskar Quentin too, that's where the show is going to be hosted here on TikTok if the account gets banned. YouTube's generally blocked from that sort of thing. Let's see. The guy got shot in the back while he was going towards protesters. Pretty sus. Why do you think we need to pardon turkeys everywhere they are war criminals? The Great J is here. I wanted to gift the Great J a subscription. Is there a way for me to do that through this interface? Because the Great J over on YouTube has been doing timestamps for me because my ass been busy. So I keep showing up to do like, oh no, I didn't do the timestamps, and there they are in the comment, and I want to reward Great J for that. But I can't figure out how to do it. Is Jen here? She throws out some subscriptions sometimes. I don't know. W's in the chat for the Great J, just the letter J. WJ. Oh man. All right, what do we got? 8 minutes, no calls? Absurd. What is happening? Oh no, IowaGolfer's here. I'm going to say hello to IowaGolfer, who is 27 years old and kind of a friend of the show at this point. Hello, IowaGolfer.
Hey bud. Hey, I don't have too long. I'm at TPC Twin Cities right now playing. I don't know what time I'm going to be leaving. I'm hoping to be out of town by like 5 p.m. tonight, but if we can make something work, I'll get a hold of you. I'll let you know when I get done with my round. Yeah, shoot me a message, because I might have a shot at just like popping over somewhere and we can have a quick beer, like, round about 3 or 4 or 5 or something, somewhere in there. I've got somewhere to be at 6, so it'll be tight, but message me. We'll talk about it. Yeah, well, how far are you from Blaine? Because I'm in Blaine right now. I'm pretty close to downtown Minneapolis. Okay. Yeah, we'll see if we can work something out. Yeah, hit me up. All right, later, buddy. All right, have a good one, IowaGolfer. W's in the chat for IowaGolfer. W's in the chat for IowaGolfer for being a good faith caller. Because he's like... Somebody asked me the other day if we let opposition into the Discord, which the answer is no. It's not an unfriendly place.
But I had that immediately thought of like, there might be like a couple of exceptions. And like IowaGolfer, I don't know if he like cares about Discord or anything, but like he's like so genuinely honest a caller. Like I don't know. He and I talk like for what, 1 to 3 hours a month, and that's been the case for months now. I feel like I know the guy. I'm excited about his newborn baby. IowaGolfer again for having a newborn baby. I forgot to ask how the baby's doing, but anyway, there's some, IowaGolfer and I disagree on some important stuff, and we've had some pretty confrontational conversations on this show, which is what I do because I hold everybody's feet to the fire. I don't care who they are. But there's just something that feels very like, he might still be listening, so I might just be talking to him right now, but IowaGolfer, I think you're one of those people where if we reset your brain and said, forget everything you know about American politics, let's design a plan and decide which one you want to vote for, I think you'd come up with a plan that would just be what the Democrats want. I think he's one of those Republicans where there's a lot to break through in terms of the messaging that he's been giving about politics in America in his entire life. He is interested in voting in a Democratic governor in the state of Iowa because just better policies. But oftentimes when he and I get really down the rabbit hole about what's ethical and correct for policy in this country, we get to the end of the conversation and it's like, yeah, that's right. That's what Kamala Harris wanted to do. Right? We're just trying to make the world a little better, trying to get some kids fed and stuff like that, tax some rich people, to pay for stuff. That's the idea. Promote the public welfare, says that in the preamble of the Constitution. I don't think the preamble of the Constitution gets enough attention. We spend a lot of time on the shows, and I say the shows because it's me and all the other debate hosts who sit here and talk about this stuff for hours and hours and hours. We have all these things where it's like, nope. Immigrants have these rights, blah, blah, blah. There's all this specific stuff. But we kind of forget along the way, arguing the minutia, arguing the loopholes, that it's kind of un-American to forget what the preamble says when you try to argue for those loopholes, because the government exists to promote the public welfare. That's like why we did that's why there's government. That's recognized in the preamble of the Constitution. So if you're looking for a loophole to make so that the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to a certain group of people or something like that, and you're doing it in the interest of making their lives shittier, I can come back and be like, first of all, I think you're wrong about the 14th Amendment. It does apply to illegal immigrants. Like, never mind your loophole. It doesn't work. But even if it did, it's just still shitty, right? Like, there's so many cases where it's like, you're not wrong, but you are being magnificently unpatriotic by suggesting that the government isn't supposed to protect the common welfare, because that's what the preamble of the Constitution says that it's for. We're going to see if FactorAgent agrees with me about that, or if he maybe doesn't think that the government should promote the public welfare, which is what I think most Trump supporters and MAGA Americans generally are about. How old are you?
30.
30. Do you support Trump?
No.
Ooh, get 10 seconds. You got something for me?
I do. I kind of wanted to push back on some stuff I've heard you say in the past, if you're cool with that.
Hey, I like friendly pushback. I generally reserve it for the end of the show because it's less engaging, but you sound a little upset. Let's get into it. What's the pushback?
Not upset. I'm just goofing. I'm just goofing
for the clicks. What's the pushback?
I think that I've recognized in the past 10 years that the white liberal has done an incredible amount of damage to our country. And I sort of want to push back on this idea of vote blue no matter who, and kind of just ignore anybody that pushes back against that. I think there's 2/3 of our country that don't vote. And when those people are given a platform to explain why they don't vote, there's always this animosity towards them that's like, well, you're being irresponsible and you're not engaging in the system that you didn't voluntarily sign up for. I think that we as progressives need to engage those people in a more direct way rather than sort of shove down their ideas, if that makes sense.
Well, okay, so here's one thing I'll just say about vote blue no matter who. I've stopped saying it. So I won't, like, anytime I've said the phrase, remember to vote blue no matter who, I will just recant that. And in saying that, my thoughts on it haven't changed. I have realized that that's a message that means something very different to a bunch of people than it meant to me when I said it. So it's just not the right slogan. Because what I meant when I said it is not, oh my God, the Democrats are always going to be right over the Republicans. Every Democrat ever is always going to be right. I meant right now, what's happening in the midterms in 2026. It's really fucking important for everybody in America that the Republicans lose control of the legislative branch. Because
sure, but I would push back and say that we've heard that from my generation's entire lifetime. I think it is fair to say we're in a unique predicament. I've heard every election is the most important election in the history of this country. I grew up in a town where when Obama was elected, I drove home from school and flags were flying upside down because that was the most important election of my lifetime. And at the end of the day, my life has been affected in the way that things progressively get more expensive. Gas has gotten more expensive year over year. Groceries have gotten more expensive year over year. We haven't ended wars. We still don't have health care. We still don't have access to education for a large majority of this country. So a bunch of those and no matter who I vote for, that doesn't change.
A bunch of those issues have been getting progressively worse over time. I would argue that in particular, that bundle of issues has been getting worse since the 50s, 60s, and 70s, which is when the corporations started working really hard to lobby against high tax brackets for wealthy people.
I would agree with that.
So the reason I think that we're in unprecedented times, both in terms of the policy actions of the current administration and those specific quality of life things about like cost of living and stuff like that.
But that's not you can't chalk that up to just this administration. That's been a progressively worse. It's been growing progressively worse year over year, regardless of. I mean, through the Obama administration, Obama was a war terrorist.
Can I respond?
Of course.
So there's a little bit of gish galloping going on here, and I want this to be a friendly call where we work this stuff out, but there's kind of a bunch of different things going on. There's rights, there's like domestic issues, like rights being taken away from residents of the United States, whether they're citizens or not. That's an unprecedented issue with the current administration. There's issues like foreign policy, where I think the leftists are correct about both the Democrats and the Republicans being terrorists. That's a completely separate topic. And then there's this issue of things like looking at how badly inflation is outpacing wages. So those are three, to me, different domains of conversation. I was trying to respond to one of them, and now you're bringing up Obama being a war terrorist, which is a really legitimate accusation against him. I think it's reasonable to say that because America are the terrorists on the global stage.
I'm just
saying, in terms of navigating the conversation, we got to pick a thing. We got it. Like I was trying to answer something you said earlier when you brought up all this. It's a big topic. We could spend the whole life. You and me could sit and talk for 2 hours and not cover all this. But what I was trying to say is that if we look at this period from the 50s, 60s, and 70s to now, which is basically living memory, right? Like a boomer is somebody who has watched all of this happen. A boomer is somebody who was born during the time when the tax brackets were such that the government could afford to help the people and make America better. That's how we built the highways and stuff. And we've been undoing all of that. This is all tangled up together. But I think that even if we look at the United States as the global war terrorists, there is this other thing happening, which is that if we look domestically, the Democrats are trying to fix these problems, and the Republicans are very actively making them worse.
I guess my greater point is that the Democrats haven't fixed it.
They don't have enough time to. If we look at something like the deficit,
but I've been hearing that my entire life is my point.
Yeah, and that's a problem that I have with partisan politics. I think we need a catastrophic change in this country. We need to get away from this system that you are very astutely pointing out simply doesn't work long term. Like we just keep playing this game of ping pong where the Democrats make the deficit better and the Republicans make it worse, or the Democrats handle inflation in a way that's reasonable and the Republicans make it worse. Handling inflation in a way that was reasonable during a global pandemic meant letting inflation run wild so that people could pay their rent and afford groceries. And then that meant, 9.1 inflation or whatever the peak was. And then Biden got it under control. Like we can look at how these things are handled. And I can say that this system is deeply broken and it's going to keep going back and forth. I hate the partisan system. I want to defeat it. I want there to be change. I want there to be third parties. I want to reform the Electoral College. I want there to be ranked choice voting. I have solutions to the fact that you are correct about everything you've said. None of them will happen if the Republicans win the midterms. None of them will happen if the Democrats win either, though. Some of them can happen if the Democrats
But
win
they
the midterms. Some of them have happened.
Historically, they won't.
One of the things that I just listed is ranked choice voting, and it is in place in places in this country. And to deny that progress is, I think, foolhardy. If you
that doesn't affect working class people's material condition in this country, though.
Tell that to New Yorkers.
It hasn't.
Tell that to New Yorkers who have a non-establishment Democrat as mayor of the biggest city in the country.
I understand that, and I'm a big supporter of Zoran. I think that the energy in the city is better than it's ever been before. But I do think that we have been told this over and over every year in my lifetime, and material conditions for working class people have progressively gotten worse. And no matter what we can point to as liberals or as progressives or whatever we want to call ourselves, material conditions for working class people have progressively gotten worse. And everything is more expensive. And the more I get told that if we vote for these certain people in this election, again, the most important election in my lifetime, it just gets worse.
Okay, but you said that none of these things are happening, and I pointed out a clear example of one of them happening. Do you recognize that it is just factually wrong to say that these things aren't happening and can't happen?
I'm not saying that they can't happen. I'm saying
that's what you asserted just about a moment ago. You said that I said that those things aren't going to happen with Republicans in control, and you said they're not going to happen with Democrats in control, which brings us to this, like, my argument is no, they're not the same.
And what I'm saying is that you're pointing out a situation that happened in New York City, right?
We also have ranked choice voting here for mayor of Minneapolis. I was able to cast a vote. I was able to vote in a way that was, to me, more reasonable in this most recent mayoral election. I didn't get the candidate I wanted. I didn't want Fry to be reelected, but I didn't have to vote for him to prevent a Republican from becoming the mayor. I voted for somebody else and cast my second choice vote for him to make sure we'd get a blue vote. Blue no matter who in the context of that one election, but I was able to vote for somebody more progressive, and that makes me happy because that means that the next time we have a mayoral election, I'm more likely to succeed because somebody like Omar Fatah, who got my first choice vote, can continue to grow their candidacy, continue to grow their popularity instead of just wasting a bunch of money on an election that they're not only not going to win, but they might actually reduce the likelihood of a positive outcome in, because without ranked choice voting, somebody like Omar Fatah, who's going to have real progressive change that people like myself, far left-leaning liberals, are excited about in a city like Minneapolis, it's unwise. I would urge somebody, no, don't run. You're going to fuck up the vote. You're going to Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton out of the Oval Office by getting people so excited that they're going to be mad that you're not the candidate, and they're going to elect Donald Trump. I don't want that to happen for mayor in Minneapolis, and it's not going to because we have ranked choice voting, and I, as a voter, feel less disenfranchised because of that, and you're sitting here and denying to me that progress has happened.
I'm not denying to you that progress has happened.
Well,
I'm not denying that to you.
I'm offering Minneapolis as a second counterexample to New York, in addition to New York, because you're saying that these things can't happen, yet they are.
I'm not saying that they can't happen. That's great. It's great that it's happened. I'm all for it. I'm not saying that it hasn't happened. I'm saying that the material conditions of the working class still have not changed. And how do we fix that? Because year after year,
they're getting very rapidly worse. And if we look at the policies that are causing them to very rapidly get worse, we're in this battle of the last 50 years where the Republicans are across the board uniformly cooperating with one another on trying to make these things worse for poor people. And then the Democrats, there are some establishment Democrats who we can look at and be like, dude, you're not helping. You're not trying to reform tax policy. You're not trying to get ranked choice voting at all levels. You're not trying to increase community outreach. You're not trying to make communities resistant to societal collapse. That's something that the leftists are really concerned about. Like, you're not trying to make progress on all these things. We can say that about a lot of the Democrats, but there are Democrats who are working very, very hard to create the sort of policies that I'm talking about that can address these issues and move us the other direction in terms of these quality of life imbalances, like how high inflation is against how slowly wages are growing. That particular math problem, the Republicans have been fucking up. So you're sitting here and telling me that, it doesn't matter and the two parties are the same, when one party, like I said, has this very powerful thing called cooperation, One thing the Republicans are way better at than the Democrats is agreeing on everything, which is why they're so politically powerful, why they've been able to accomplish what they've accomplished recently, why they've been able to get together behind a cult of personality instead of the Constitution and really accelerate the degree to which they're ruining the country. Whereas it's our fault on this, our main fault on the left is that we don't have that type of unity. It's good that we don't. It's good that we have diverse ideas, but this political
I think the main fault
is what
I think
is
the
our
main fault
greatest
on the
weakness.
left is that I think our main fault on the left is that we ostracize people.
Yeah, I think that there's
Like, plain
infighting
and
over
simple.
here. What do you mean ostracize? What
not-
people?
The entire working class, the entire country. We've drawn lines between.
Okay, I think that every single elected Republican in the federal government is very guilty of that. I think most establishment Democrats are.
That every single working class person that you talk to can at least agree that they're getting fucked in the same exact way. And that we as liberals have done a terrible job at reaching out to those people to at least acknowledge the fact that, like, the difference between us is no greater than just like optics. We're all getting fucked the same exact way.
Why is there ranked choice voting in New York? How did that happen if it's just optics? If this is all nothing, like,
those
again,
people are getting fucked the same way. The rent in New York is skyrocketed the same way it has skyrocketed across the entire country. We're all getting screwed the exact same.
I grew up in New York, and I left New York because of the rent emergency. I didn't want to pay rent in New York, so when it got to rent paying age, I got the fuck out of there, and I moved to the state in the United States that had the third highest HDI and wasn't an outlier, because the two that rank more highly than Minnesota are tiny, wealthy states, and that's not what I was looking for. I'd be broke if I moved there too. So I moved to Minnesota, a place where that's not a problem. So I have some personal experience with it. I value that. What I would like to point out to you that it's not surprising to me that the places where these issues are the worst, the cost of living crisis is always going to be worst in your most populous city. So it's obvious that New York is the center of attention on this. It's not surprising at all to me that it's the first city to say, I'm so fed up with this. We need an actual progressive leader. So in their local government, the seat of the executive branch is the mayor, and they hired somebody who's mega progressive. They hired a social democrat. They hired a Muslim to be the mayor of a city with a population of 10 million people in America. That's bananas. That's a crazy thing to consider.
That is crazy. How has rent gotten better in New York?
I'm not familiar with exactly what Zoran is doing about that. I know he's balanced the budget, which is going to help a lot in the decades to come because the infrastructure in New York is crumbling, and that's one of the reasons that the housing crisis is so insane, because of the need to pay for all that. So he's doing financial things that make the city more resilient to that sort of thing. I don't know off the top of my head what's happened with rent in the last year, in the last few months.
It's gotten worse. It's gotten worse.
I don't know of a thing a mayor could do in 6 months that would stop it from getting worse.
So then why do we sit here and talk about how awesome it is that we elected this dude that's progressive and can push all these agendas? It's the same thing.
Here's the disconnect. Let's say that rent is going up too fast, right? Let's say it's going up, your average crappy apartment is going up $1,000 a year. It was $4,000 this year. It's $5,000, or not last year. It's $5,000 this year. And the mayor says, doesn't have to be Zoran, just hypothetical mayor says, we're going to work on the rent crisis. We're going to try to turn that around. I think it would be nonsense in a big system like New York City to have a mayor who say, we're going to stop it dead in its track. It's going to stay at 5,000, or guess what? We're going to turn it around and bring it down to 4,000. No, that's fucking nonsense. I would also accept such a mayor being realistic and saying, you know what? It's still going to be 6,000 next year. We cannot get these bills passed fast enough.
Has he said that though?
Hypothetical land. Are you somebody who can't do a hypothetical?
I can do a hypothetical. I'm talking about real life situations. So I said hypothetical mayor. It doesn't have to be Zoran. So don't ask me, did he do that? Because when you described something about Zoran a moment ago, it suggested to me that you didn't understand something much more foundational to all of this, which is why we're in hypothetical land right now, to make sure you understand that instead of getting your feelings tangled up about what's going on in the real world. I don't think you understand. Please let me finish explaining. Can I finish explaining? I would not trust the mayor that said, we're going to turn it around and bring rent down to 4,000 from 5,000. I would think that's unrealistic. If the mayor said, look, it's still going to be 6,000 next year, but after that, it's going to not be 7,000, it's going to be 6,500. And after that, instead of being 7,500 or 8,000,
it's going to be 7,100 or something like that. Like I could recognize that sort of change is an improvement, because it's just impossible. The guy doesn't have enough power to completely, upend the system and turn it around. And we see that at the federal level with the deficit, because the debt still grows at the national level when a Democrat's in charge, but the rate at which it grows slows. It goes down every single time there's a Democratic president in my living memory since the 90s. Every single time they turn it around, and then the Republicans show back up and fuck it up. And people like you point to the number and say the number's still going up, therefore none of it matters. Whereas without the work of the Democrats working against that pattern, it would be so much higher. It would be so much worse. So I'm not interested in the fact that you're upset that Zoran hasn't completely rebooted the way the economy works in New York in such a way that suddenly it's an affordable place to live. You're in fantasy land if you think there's a path to that. So you're sitting here upset that the Democrats aren't fixing the problems that the Republicans are causing fast enough. And I am sitting here asking you, what exactly is your plan? If not that, what should we do?
If the Republicans are so good at hyper speed training their agenda, why do the Democrats just give me fake answers and slowly roll it back? I don't know what the answer is, to be honest with you. I know the leftists want to have a revolution and burn down the entire government and reform or whatever. I don't know if I fully buy that that's viable. I think I've maybe kind of come to the point that we just need to, as liberals and as people on the left, start investing more in our local communities.
That's very good.
And
I said that at the very beginning. I said that the people
I didn't disagree with you.
The politicians that are trying to make that happen are the Democrats. The ways in which we've had real investment in change in local politics that allows people like me to feel less disenfranchised. Yeah, but you're sitting here pretending that nothing is happening when I'm giving tons of examples of things happening.
Nothing. They're minute on the scale of what the issues are that the working class is facing in this country.
I'm sorry.
They're just minute.
I told you that as a voter, I feel so much less disenfranchised by having ranked choice voting, and you're telling me that doesn't matter? Personally, fuck you for that. What the hell, dude?
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
It's not fine.
I appreciate that.
It's not fine.
I appreciate that.
We're at a point of opposition because I'm telling you it's not fine that you don't value that.
I'm saying as a working class member, as somebody that is part of the working class, somebody that's blue collar, somebody that is around people
a year ago,
Midwest states that work their asses off, and everything gets more expensive.
Listen to my words. A year ago, I was shoveling dirt for a living in a Midwest city. I used to work at a dirt factory where we made potting soil.
I'm not saying you didn't.
I shoveled aggregate material into a hole in the floor.
That's great. I'm not trying to put you down for anything. I'm saying that the material conditions.
You're talking about your experiences and saying that because they're so miserable and different than mine, I must not understand that nothing is happening.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Why did you bring it up? Then why did you bring up your hard work in the Midwest? Because I've done hard work in the Midwest.
Because I'm saying I've been around all those people and all their lives have gotten worse.
I am one such person. You're around such a person now. My life has gotten better. I am begging you to recognize the fact that I consider it an amazing W in my life that I have ranked choice voting. Your life has gotten better. Your life has gotten better because you chose to go down this route of being a political commentator. No. Before that, I was like, oh my God, ranked choice voting. How exciting. That was before I ever made an internet video. What are you talking about? That was the way in which my life got better.
Right now, you can sit here and say that your life is so much better because you've grinded your way out of that.
No, I was saying, you're not listening to me. I was saying that. I was celebrating this win while I was shoveling the dirt at the dirt factory.
Okay, did your rent get cheaper? Did you have more rights as a worker?
We're making progress on that type of shit here. Yeah.
Were you able to unionize the company that you were working in? Were you able to do any of that?
Can I answer some of these questions you're asking? I can't answer all of them because time has this thing where it's one-dimensional and we have to if we could split off in 8 directions, that'd be great. But specifically, you can point to one particular thing that maybe I don't know the exact policy answer to. Maybe I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. But there's this thing I've been talking about the whole time, which is the rate at which the cost of living has been outpacing wages. And I live in a place where that problem is not as bad because of Democratic leadership.
How much has rent gone up in the past 8 years in the city that you live in?
A lot. Minneapolis is a growing city. There's a lot of exciting stuff happening here for the same reason that I pointed out about New York, that if you're going to have a cost of living crisis, it's going to be most acute in places that are most prosperous, for the same reason that it's generally more expensive to live in America than it is to live in somewhere like Somalia. You do recognize that the cost of living will be greater in a nicer place, right?
Obviously, I understand that. I'm saying that is the case across the board, across our entire country. It's not just these little minute cities that are like
I live in a shitty slum building with a crappy evil company where when I have a set of outlets that aren't working because there's an entire breaker in this apartment that just doesn't work. I am qualified electronics, but I'm not going to go messing with the actual wiring because I'm not a licensed electrician and it's not my place. I don't own it. Can't get that fixed because I live in a freaking slum. Same with my sink. My plumbing's broken. Same problem. I don't want to do it myself. I don't want to put the expense there. I live in a shithole. And when the letter came and told me what my rent chain was going to be, the rent didn't change. So you're talking to a person who got the letter in the mail a month ago that said, are they going to fuck me exactly how legally they are able to fuck me, which is like 3% a year or something like that? Or are they going to keep it the same? And they chose to keep it the same. And that's true for more people than it would otherwise be if we didn't have these policies in place protecting renters. That doesn't happen in places where these sorts of local elections don't get won by people who have progressive policies like mine. So the answer to your question...
Yes, it does. Look,
are you suggesting that the Republicans are protecting people's rents?
I am not suggesting that.
That's fucking nonsense.
I'm not.
Then what is your position? I don't get it, man. Like
over the past, all I'm saying is that
you're telling me that my rent is getting more expensive when it's not. What the fuck?
My biggest point here is that life has gotten more expensive for the working class over the past 10 years, regardless of who's in office.
50 years. It's a bigger problem than this.
Regardless of any of that, and that the liberals that turn around and say, vote blue no matter who, and that you can point to all these little minute things, Zoran getting elected in
It's not minute.
New York,
fuck you for saying it's minute.
Great.
These affect people's lives. No, it's huge. It's huge for people's lives. No. You're calling it small. Why are you calling it small?
Because it hasn't changed the material conditions for the vast majority of the working class in this country.
3% of the people in this country live in New York City. It's huge.
That's nothing.
You're saying 3% of people is nothing? 3% of the people in this country are illegal immigrants, and I have to run a whole fucking show talking to people about that 3%. Why is 3% nothing? That's 10 million people.
The majority of the working class in this country's lives have gotten progressively worse and worse and worse and worse. And no matter who you elect into public office, it just gets worse.
But it's getting better.
You can't ignore that.
What the fuck are you talking about?
How is it? How is it getting better? It's not getting better.
I just listed ways in which it's getting better. We've been talking for about, 25 minutes about ways that it's been getting better. And you're just like, that's small. That's nothing. That doesn't matter. When we're talking about 3% of the country and my life personally. Like, what the fuck,
Taxes are going up. People don't have access to health care.
Okay. Hold on.
There's the entire country. Cost of living is higher.
I gave this example with the deficit. Which is that the deficit, the debt goes up every year because it's been a long time since we've had a negative deficit. There's no deficit. That was Clinton, right? The last time we had no deficit. Funny, it was a Democrat. The point is, the problem is always getting worse. The rate at which it's getting worse slows down when the Democrats are in control, whether we're talking about the federal government or those local elections that you keep switching back and forth between the policies. How do you not recognize that that's better? How
do you convince half of this country then to vote for progressives?
I run a show. I run a show that thousands and thousands of people watch, millions actually, if we count the clips on Instagram, where I talk to people like you and demonstrate that I have a plan and you don't. That's what I do about it.
How do you know I don't have a plan?
I asked for one and you said you didn't have one.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. Your plan is that we just keep voting for blue.
That isn't my plan. No, that's a minimization of what my plan is, and you know it. I consider that disingenuous. I think that what you just did was intentionally dishonest. You know that my approach to this is more nuanced than blue no matter who. We started the call with me clarifying that. Fucking nonsense.
Okay, so would you ever vote for anybody that's not blue?
Sure.
Who?
Somebody with good policies.
Who's that? Who's on the right? Who's on the right that has good policies? None of them.
what do you mean? Like, I just because I'm not voting for a Republican doesn't mean I'm not voting for a Democrat. There have been independent seats. We've had independent House seats. Vermont is an interesting case.
Okay.
Michigan has some libertarian policies that's interesting. You don't need titles for cars in Michigan. Like, what are you talking about? There are examples of this, and I want more of that to happen, which is why I'm so in favor of ranked choice voting. And you're sitting here telling me that I want only establishment Democrats when literally the reason I didn't
say that.
You said you were accusing me of saying blue no matter who. You're interrogating me about whether I'd ever vote for somebody who's not blue. I can imagine voting for somebody who's not blue if we got ranked choice voting in that election. We could have a mayor of Minneapolis who was purple or pink or green or whatever color we want to put on a new third party and say, hey, this is the new third party of cut the fucking bullshit. We're just going to do the shit that Oscar says on his show.
They're not going to do that.
We can do that.
They will not.
What if I'm the fucking candidate, dude? I live in this city and I fucking care about it and people care about what the fuck I say. What if I do it? What if I run for mayor of Minneapolis for in 10 years?
Corporations have too much power.
You're not fucking listening.
You're not going to do that.
You're not using your ears. What if I run for mayor of Minneapolis? What if I develop enough popularity on this platform for people to realize I'm fucking might in 10 years, dude? Let me build my fucking audience.
Then do it.
Fucking watch me.
And you know what I want you to do more than anything?
Double dog dare me.
This is what I want you to hear. This is what I want you to hear. Stop alienating half of this country and telling them that they're irresponsible for not voting.
Why are you so stuck on this notion of me not voting for blue no matter who when I am sitting here pleading that we create a path to voting for somebody other than blue?
There are 2/3 of this country. There are 2/3 of this country that do not vote,
the question.
And we as liberals alienate them.
The question. The question is, why are you accusing me of this blue no matter who ideology when I am sitting here suggesting you didn't let me finish answering my question? I am going to start my question over again. If you interrupt me, I will start the question back at the beginning. Use your ears and listen. Why are you so upset about blue no matter who when what I am sitting here telling you is that it is so unfortunate that our system works in such a way that in the context of the 2026 midterms, I think, we got to make sure that we don't lose control to the Republicans, because they're going to accelerate the rate at which all this shit's getting worse, and they're going to stop us from doing what I really want to do, which is get ranked choice voting in place so that people who have more progressive, more left-leaning, more for the people ideologies have a chance in the elections. And I offered myself as an example of somebody who might do it in 10 or 15 years. Why are you sitting here complaining about the establishment Democrats when I actually have a plan to overthrow them through policy, through the Constitution, through the rights in this country? My path forward doesn't involve societal collapse like the leftists want. Some of the leftists want. I know not all the leftists want societal collapse. Watch it in the chat. But you brought that up as a criticism of them as well. You don't have a better plan. I do. Why are you not recognizing that is my question.
Because your platform involves alienating the 2/3 of this country that don't vote.
Lucid Viper sent me $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say, what does the guest think as a realistic best case scenario is in a divided Congress, even if every Democrat was wildly progressive?
Stop supporting them.
Congratulations. You can do that from home without calling into my show.
My best answer to that is
also, it's not 2/3, by the way. It's 2/3 of the population, not 2/3 of the eligible voters. You're counting children. You're counting children and non-citizens, dude. Come on.
My honest answer to that would be actually start working to create solidarity amongst the working class and to make sure that everybody
who's doing a better job of that. Who is doing a better job of that? You or me?
I know. Not you, because you alienate the dudes that come on here and say that they don't vote.
Hey, people in the chat who have jobs, am I creating unity or division on the left? Just give me unity or division in the chat.
There's people that have come on your show and say that they don't vote, and all you can say is that they're irresponsible and that they live in a system that they've chosen to not subject themselves to operating in. And I think that that's wrong. I think it's wrong.
All right. So check out the chat.
Unify the working class, bro. Unify the working class. My life is
restricted for harassment and bullying. I don't even think that was you guess. I think that was me.
Unify them.
I'll fucking eat it.
Get the working class to unify themselves. Understand that the fact that no matter who you vote
working
for,
on it, buddy.
If you choose to not vote, we're all getting screwed the same way.
You're just going back to talking points because you're like, because you know that it's silly what you're saying. What exactly are you doing to create this unity? What's the path forward? What do we do? I've been very clear about what we do. I have some ideas. What do we do?
I know working class people that fight over these same things that you're talking about. That fight over optics.
All right, so great, not voting.
I want a far.
You're not going to vote. Wait, here. Let's take your ideology seriously. Let's say that people listen to you and they don't vote because whatever they think this whole system is bullshit.
I'm not saying to not vote. I'm saying to not alienate the people who say that they don't want to vote.
November's coming up. What do people do? What is your suggestion? Because it doesn't sound like it's to vote for Democrats.
I'm not saying to not vote for Democrats. I'm saying that we as liberals and as people on the left...
Who do I vote for in November is the question.
I don't care.
Okay, so you're telling people not to care,
matter.
And that's going to result in the Republicans winning if more people listen to you, because the Republicans aren't going to fucking listen to you.
If the Democrats win, my rent's going to get higher next year.
The rent's going to get higher next year no matter what. So you're just going to flip the table because you don't have the thing you want?
Cares?
Selfish.
So who cares who I vote for?
I care who you vote for.
If I vote for, if my material conditions don't change. Rent is going to get more expensive.
I'm actually just going to mute him to read the donations because I feel like I'm going to have a hard time getting through them. Krista sent me $5 on Cash App to say, I used to be scared. Now I'm terrified of this administration. Yeah, me too. It's fucking terrible. Was that the only Cash App? I'm sorry. I was so busy talking to this guy. I wasn't even really paying all that much attention. There's a bunch of YouTube Super Chats coming in, though. Caller, if you forfeit your vote, you are lazy, selfish, and irresponsible. Tavi, thank you for the $5 on YouTube Super Chat. I totally agree. Above Infinity sent me $5 on YouTube Super Chat to add. This guest is humiliating himself trying to justify treating politics like a goddamn Yelp review. Sick burn. The great Jay spent $5 to add, let's say the country starts at minus 100. Dems increase it by positive 5. Republicans decrease it by negative 10 each time. Us sitting at minus 95 is better than minus negative 10. Dude, we can use two negative numbers. You could say the Democrats are decreasing it by 5 and the Republicans are decreasing it by 10. That's still better. Is that going on the shirts? Discord, get that one logged. I think that's going to be an Oskar Quentin shirt. That's still better. All right. Do I have any Venmos to read? Linktree in the bio, folks, if you think that I'm creating unity. Yeah, the balance has increased, so there's some notifications to read for sure, because Will sent me $10 to say, these are the guests I warned about. Fake liberal saying both sides are exactly the same. They call in lots and show us with this tactic. Yeah, I like platforming them because I think they look fucking awful on my show. Caroline sent for $15 on Venmo. Hey, just wanted to pop in and say you're awesome. I really appreciate your ability to cut through a guest's word salad and get right to the point. Keep up the good fight. Trying to create some of that unity the guest is after. We'll see if it works. David sent me $25. David gets the W's because there's a lot of donations that just came in, but his is the biggest. So W's in the chat for David for saying, I'm doing what the guest refuses to do and vote. Vote him out of here. I think that's a vote for kick. Might be time to kick the guest. I don't know, man. Oh, he's gone. He ran while I was reading the donations. Goodbye. Oh, fuck. Now I have to become mayor. Shit. There's a link tree in my bio where you can go and follow me on the other platforms if you want to listen to me when I'm not live. All the VODs get uploaded to YouTube, usually same day. Ad read is changing. I'm hiring 2 people to help me run the show. It's going to be like a slow transition, but some work is getting offloaded from me to some other people, and the plan is in like a month or 2 to have a producer sitting over there doing all of this for me, so I can do all of this instead. So you're donating for 2 or 3. But anyway, that it's because the show is fucking overwhelming. It's growing so fast. There's so much fucking work. I can't do all this shit. I'm talking to a fucking politician, Doug Chapin, who's trying to get a congressional seat away from fucking Tom Emmer in Minnesota. He's going to be the guest on my evening show, 7 p.m. Central Time over on YouTube only. No censorship. You get to hear how Oskar likes to actually talk about this stuff. There is some censorship, but it's not nearly as bad on YouTube. There's a bunch going on in the Oskar Quentin world right now, and the workload is insane, and I have some people who've been with me from the beginning who want to contribute to it, who are going to start paying to do that. So that's going to make the show better. That's hopefully going to get me streaming longer than 2 hours a day. The goal is to bump up to 3 hours once I have offloaded clip editing workload, and then to 4 hours is the goal. Get to that 4 hours a day. Maybe go 10 to 2 instead of 10 to 12 Central Time. So the link tree in the bio, you can support the efforts just by following on all the other platforms, especially down here if you're over on TikTok. Backup account so we can still run the show when this one gets a flag for that tasty censorship I was just talking about. But, if you have money that you think would be well spent on the sort of unity and message that I offer here on the Oskar Quentin platform, if you think I'm right and the previous caller was wrong, you can send me some of that money, and it very directly makes it more likely that all these things I care about will be successful. It helps me get my voice out there. Mike sent me $1. He must have a message. Let's see. For $1 on Venmo, you still get your message read by Oskar Quentin. He says, guest has never heard of voting for harm reduction and advocating for progressive policies within the party that will provide that pathway. I tried to explain it to him. I don't think he was listening. I don't think I was breaking through on that. I don't think it was happening. Chewy sent me $5 to say Oscar for mayor 2036. If I run for public office ever in my life, I think that will be the first office, because I don't know. We talk about local politics, and it's like that's the thing I care about. Like, that guy didn't give half a shit that I felt less disenfranchised as a voter. He doesn't care. Lefty Gamer Dad says, what's my schedule? 10 to 12 Central Time on TikTok and YouTube, and then round the clock if you want to listen to the podcast. Thanks, everybody. I'm gonna take a breath. Let's all take a breath together. Very upsetting people who don't recognize progress when it's there, just because it didn't happen to them, just because their rent didn't go down. You think your rent's gonna go down? No, let's fix the cost of living equation so that it doesn't matter that your rent is going up. For fuck's sake, people can't do math. We're gonna talk to Charlie. We're gonna see if Charlie is a reasonable person. How old are you, Charlie?
Hello, I am 20 years old.
20 years old. Do you support Trump?
I do support Trump, yes.
Why is that?
I was wondering if you would like to talk about abortion. I've been kind of researching why I think that abortion. So I just wanted to get your position on abortion to begin with.
So my position on abortion is actually just kind of this, like, I have like a couple of blanket policies about how I look at right and wrong. And one of them is that I really like to weigh suffering. I think that suffering, like human suffering and animal suffering, because I also believe in animal rights, like, is very fundamentally like how we get about rights at all. Like, when we make decisions about what's good and bad, we look at whether or not people will suffer. We look at whether or not people will be happy. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So when we want to say, like, something that I wouldn't be for, like cut down a forest, like we want to cut down this forest to, like, use the lumber for something, or to put a mini mall there or something, I say, oh, that's bad. And it's not because I think that the forest suffers. I don't think that forests suffer. Forests are made of trees, and I don't think that trees have neurophysiology. They don't have brains. I don't think can we agree that trees don't suffer?
Yeah.
So I don't actually give half a shit about the forest. I give a shit about the animals that live in the forest. I give a shit about the people who live on the planet where the air on the planet and the atmosphere is reoxygenated by the trees. It's actually mostly the ocean algae that does the oxygenation, but that's beside the point. The point is the forest is beneficial to thinking, feeling creatures that can suffer, humans included. So the forest is this thing that gets us to the suffering of whoever is connected to the forest in some way, which I would argue we all are, because we breathe the air. So we have to make reasonable decisions about what causes more suffering, not building the homes with the lumber or cutting down the forest. You see how this that's maybe a sensible way to, like, weigh these things and decide maybe how much of the forest we should cut down?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so that's just like Oscar's ethics in a nutshell. Let's reduce suffering. Can you get behind that bumper sticker?
Yeah, I mean, reducing suffering is always good, but you also have to weigh out the alternative options.
Well, that's the whole, exactly, right, because we don't want to cause anybody, if the alternatives cause, we have to weigh all of it. We have to consider all the options we have. If a bunch of people have different plans, I look at which of these plans, both short and long term, are going to, like, what's the effect on global suffering going to be?
Yeah.
So when it comes to abortion, my issue is that I think that the people who study it, the people who take, like, functional magnetic resonance imagery of pregnant women and the unborn children inside them, and, like, look at what's going on inside of their skulls, because we have, like, really impressive technology that can actually tell if there's neurological activity happening. It's when you hear fMRI. MRI gives you just, like, an image. That's when they're, like, looking for a tumor or something. But if you want to know what's going on in the brain, which parts of the brain are activating, fMRI, because we can actually see with very, very impressive technology that I happen to understand, but I think it would be bad airtime. We can actually see where there's activity in the brain. That's how we study that this part of the brain does this, that part of the brain does that. We can, like, learn what's connected to what, because it's all very complicated. When we do that with pregnant women where the unborn baby is, like, younger than 20 weeks, we don't see anything. We don't see that the lights are on. And I think that there's a really, really solid case to say that until about 20, 24 weeks, somewhere in there where the lights flicker on, before that, the unborn baby is a little bit like the tree in the forest. It can't suffer. It has never been able to suffer. It doesn't have hopes and dreams. Nothing at all happens to it experientially. So ethically, I treat that unborn baby the same way I treat the tree in the forest until it can suffer. So we're talking only before it can suffer. And then unlike the forest, the unborn baby doesn't affect the air we breathe. It doesn't really affect most people. There's one person that it really greatly affects. I think you know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see what you're getting at. Maybe now I can give you kind of my point of view, and then from there we can have a more
to wrap it up for maybe those who haven't been listening the whole time, because people come and go from the live. I don't think that the baby suffers until they're about 20, 24 weeks along in the pregnancy, and I think that the woman has a great capacity to suffer. She's really influenced by that. So I just don't value the life of that baby unborn baby until it can suffer. I just don't care. And when I say I don't care, I mean it very literally. I care about a lot of things. I care about a lot of creatures and people and things. Don't care about something that can't suffer. It's like caring about a rock.
My position is going to kind of treat the opposite effect. So you might think that I'm going to be saying that before 20 weeks, we should value it, which I do value it before 20 weeks, because I think that life begins at conception, and from there we should value it. However, I'm more so going to say that the point at holding the 24 weeks doesn't really make sense from a neurological standpoint, and the kind of things that are present at 20 to 24 weeks, you would kind of have to move that even back further to 28 weeks. And I think at some point, if you just keep moving and moving the target, like from 20 to 24 weeks to 24 to 28 weeks, and now you're at 28 weeks, and then you push it to 32 weeks, at some point we're going to get to it where we don't necessarily desire it until it's maybe a few hours before a live birth is performed.
No,
so
but my metric, that doesn't meet my metric, because my metric is neurological activity. So somewhere along that way, the neurologist would say, nope, the brain has turned on, everybody. What are we doing? And that's what I would say. So I don't think that's right. I don't think this idea of slippery sloping until we're like infanticiding already born children is kind of the next step we could go past that. No, because I'd say that the baby has neurological activity. What are we doing? So the line's a little blurry. Yeah. I said 20 to 24 weeks, but no, you can't push it to 28 weeks because we see neurological activity at 28 weeks.
So I would like to present a few cases. There's been a few cases of people in vegetative states, and it's kind of been a lot of cases, probably over a dozen cases now, where people deemed it reasonable to pull the plug on people in fully vegetative states. And I'm going to make a case that these people in vegetative states display the same neurological activity of infants in the womb at 24 to 28 weeks. And these people in these vegetative states, we would be okay pulling the plug on them. However, when they display infants in the womb, they display the same neurological activity. We are saying that that is now worthy of deeming them life. So to say that in one case, we would be okay pulling the plug, and in another case, we then value it, I think is kind of a misrepresentation of our overall ideas of what we value and what we do not value. I think that the reason why many of us say at 20 to 24 weeks, we should value this baby in the womb is because at some point we realize that it must be wrong. However, the neurological activity that is displayed at 20 to 24 weeks is so incredibly low and unstable, we would not value it outside of the womb. So why are we valuing it inside of the womb is my question.
So your argument is that because we can find similar amounts of neurological activity in a brain dead person who the doctors tell us has no chance, we should value that amount of brain activity in an unborn child. Is that what I'm under? I want to steel man you. Okay, so my problem with that is that you're mixing up the neurological activity with the suffering, because there's lots of organisms that have loads of neurological activity that I don't think suffer. I've spent a lot of time in my life studying biology, and somebody mentioned cockroaches in the chat when I first started laying this out, and I'm of the opinion, I don't think bugs have phenomenology. I don't think that spiders know what's going on. I don't think the lights are on for a spider, because I know how spiders work, and I don't think that they have enough neurons for consciousness to happen. We don't know exactly how consciousness works, so it gets very muddy, right? So just because there's some semblance of neurological activity, you're suggesting that gets us to suffering. Is that what's happening here?
So basically what I'm saying is if you look at cases in which we would deem it okay to pull the plug on a person in a vegetative state, and then we compare that same amount of neurological activity to a baby in the womb at 24, let's just say 20 to 24 weeks, what you deemed is when abortion should stop. So if we compare an infant in the womb at 20 to 24 weeks to a person who you and I would both deem it reasonable to pull the plug on that person, those two people display the same neurological activity. It's like a side-by-side comparison.
That's nonsense.
However, for one...
No. The same side-by-side. You're suggesting to me that a person who's had a traumatic brain injury or something like that, or they've been starved of oxygen to the point where they're brain dead, that we're going to look at the two pictures of them and an infant at 20 weeks and then we're going to see the same thing? That's fucking nonsense. That discredits your entire argument. What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm saying that if you look at CT scans, so there are cases where like someone's entire cerebral cortex could be replaced by the fluid, and then a process called like cortical and atrophy. And then this can be compared. You compare the EEG of both patients. Well, not both patients. You compare the EEG and the type of brain activity. They are very similar. But an electroencephalogram tells you, like, broad strokes whether or not there's neurological activity of the sort I admitted happens in all sorts of creatures that I don't think suffer, or all sorts of beings that I don't think are suffering. What I was talking specifically is about functional magnetic resonance imagery that talks about like which parts of the brains are talking to each other, like what's actually going on. Like the fact that a person can be brain dead, no hopes and dreams, their personality's gone, they have left the earth, they're gone. Whatever you think happens after a person's dead, that's already happened to them. But like maybe their brain stem is still telling their heart to beat and still reflexively causing the lungs to breathe, or maybe they're breathing on a machine or something. Like, that's the forest, dude. I don't care. If I'm like that, unplug me. People make directives about it. With the family suffers, people make decisions about their loved ones, and I value their suffering, which is why if people want to keep that person plugged in, I think that's a little wasteful, but I'm not going to tell them how to handle this terrible thing that them and their family are going through. We just let them decide. I think that's an acceptable societal cost to give people that type of freedom. I don't know who we're giving that right to. I don't know whose suffering we're preventing in the case of the baby. Who is that? Wait, could you repeat that? Sorry.
We can talk about these edge cases about people who are unplugged, and it's messy, and people, not everybody has a healthcare directive, not everybody's families are going to make the same decision, not everybody lives in a place where the hospital is able to keep you alive like that. Like, this is all very muddy, but I can look at any individual case and say who's going to suffer here. The doctors can tell us whether or not this person is going to have the capacity to suffer later. If they can, then we have to respect their rights. If there's a healthcare directive, we're going to follow that. If there isn't a healthcare directive, we're going to go by a default that we think is good for everybody. We have to make sensible policies about that. If they don't have the capacity to suffer, if the doctors are pretty sure that they don't have the capacity to suffer in the future, we ask the family, because they can suffer based on what happens, and we give them the right. So I can do this like nitty gritty, like, all right, show me the case, let's talk about it, let's argue this out, because there are going to be edge cases that make it difficult to decide. When we do that equation for the baby, who are we defending? Who do we turn to check for the suffering? All I argue is that the only sensible person to turn to is the mother, which is why we give her the choice. Until we can turn to the baby, which is somewhere around 24 weeks, and I don't want abortions after that.
So at 20 to 24 weeks, the type of suffering that you're talking about is so small in terms of the suffering that you and I would experience. We don't even know how to measure the type of suffering that is present at 20 to 24 weeks.
Correct. And if I was God, if I was to satisfy the Philbros, if I was Laplace's demon, if I had clairvoyance about exactly what was going on in anybody's head, because the only person whose brain I understand is my own, because I've been admitting the whole time, this line is blurry. Nothing special happens at 20 or 24 weeks, in just the same way that nothing happens special to you when you turned 18 that made you responsible. Would you argue that like one day younger than 18 is pretty similar to one day older than 18?
That's why I think we should value all the ages simultaneously.
We do just have to draw the line somewhere. So what I'm saying is we very cautiously push it early enough to say that type of suffering isn't happening. But if I was God, if I was Laplace's demon, what I think is probable is that we see neurological activity of this sort at 24 weeks. I bet if we understood consciousness better, it's probably later. I don't think that we have actual consciousness of the sort that I would value. Right. But we can't know. So out of an abundance of caution, I actually push the boundary weeks and weeks earlier to make sure that it's just not even to me seemingly possible that there's consciousness, never mind likely, just because there isn't brain activity of the sort that we've determined is probably almost certainly necessary for consciousness. So we go by that standard. There's always going to be a grain of consciousness is difficult to measure and define, so like how are we going to do it? But we do just have to make a decision somewhere. We do that with other matters like people who are brain dead. Like I said, go read a Daniel Dennett book if you want to understand it. Until you do that, I don't think that you actually care about this consciousness argument. I don't think you actually care about where this line is. I don't think you actually care about understanding this. You just are satisfied when somebody shows you two brain scans and says they're the same, which I have enough background knowledge about neurology to say that that is fucking nonsense to suggest that there's anything similar about the brain scan of an edge case, maybe brain dead person at the end of their life versus somebody at the beginning of their life who I would argue has never been brain alive in the first place. I just don't think that's sensible, but I have all this other sensible stuff that I care about that you seem to be skating right past.
That's interesting that you just kind of took my argument and put it down to that, because that's not really what I was saying at all. And there's actually a lot of evidence to say that I'm not saying that they're exactly identical. I'm saying that the level of activity that they portray is quite similar. So for us just to skate over the fact that they are displaying similar characteristics, and for one we would say this is deemed worthy of life, and for the other we would say pull the plug.
I answered specifically, which is that I don't care that the amount of activity is the same. I care what the type of activity is. I care about which structures in the brain it is. I care about how they connect to each other. I care about the mountain of studies that neurologists and psychologists and doctors have done on individuals who have brain damage or brain procedures to remove tumors that cause brain damage. We look at what's going on, and we have one of the most prestigious fields on earth is being a neurologist because of how complicated it is. So I listen to them when they do their studies about how these things connect. So just the amount of activity doesn't suggest to me that there's suffering happening. Can we agree that just the amount of neurons firing does not answer the question yes or no? Because by that reasoning, we could look at something like an ant, like a beehive, which maybe has more neurological activity happening in it because of because the baby is so small at those early weeks. Like maybe just measured by neurons firing, the beehive is bigger, but that doesn't mean it's conscious and it suffers in the same way.
Yeah, I agree.
Can we agree that the amount of neurological activity probably relevant, because the more neurological activity there's, the greater capacity there might be for that to organize into something that can cause suffering. But it's not just, there is no particular cutoff for the amount that matters. That's not the number we should look at.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying, if
you agree with that, then you think that your argument is wrong.
Okay, I'll restate it. So if you lack certain things in neurology, if your brain cells lack certain things, that automatically deems that without the presence of something like the thalamocortical cortex, if you lack something like that, and you can't then possess something else that is beyond that, because you lack the initial building blocks for that. So if I were to give you a case-by-case scenario, and I'm saying this person lacks this, which if you don't have that present, then you can no longer possess these other more advanced neurological pathways to exist. So I'm saying if we look at someone like Terry, there was a case on Terry Schiavo. I have this written down in my notes. So her CT scan showed that her cerebral cortex had been almost entirely replaced by what's this word?
Yeah. So hold on. I want to stop you because I'm not super interested in hearing an analysis of a case study from somebody who doesn't know how to pronounce the vocabulary for the subject matter. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. These are complicated things. When we look at case studies, for everybody listening, specifically in medicine, a case study is one individual, one person. And unfortunately, for neurology, that's often all we have, because we don't go cutting people's heads open and messing around to see what happens to their consciousness. We don't ask people, here, we're going to cut this slice of your brain out. Let's ask you what's going on. Unless we have to cut that part of their brain out because there's cancer in it or something like that, then we might along the way ask what happens when we cut it out so we can find out. It's an amazing tangle of complicated stuff. Are you suggesting to me that all of the neurologists are wrong about the 20-week-old babies? Because that is what you're suggesting to me.
I'm saying that when you say that you value something at 20 to 24 weeks, that doesn't necessarily make sense, because
I asked a very specific question.
The thalamocortical connections are present at 28 weeks. So it makes absolutely no sense why you value something at 20 to 4 weeks.
Okay, show me a neurologist who thinks, what are we talking about 28 weeks for? I don't want abortions at 28 weeks.
I'm saying because before 28 weeks, the hardware that is beginning to be installed is not functional in any meaningful sense.
I agree.
Yes, but you're saying 20 to 24 weeks.
Out of an abundance of caution, because I don't want to. I want to make sure that we don't abort any suffering capable unborn children. Okay. So there's a buffer on there.
Okay, so that buffer makes sense.
You're arguing again. We could get into the 20 to 30 week range and like have a big debate with a bunch of neurologists about where we think the lights turn on. I think because there is disagreement in that space, I don't have the confidence to make policy about it. So I go to the point where it's abundantly clear and obvious that there isn't the sort of neurological activity that I value. And at 20 weeks, 24 weeks, somewhere in there, that seems to be reasonable to me. Why are we talking about 28 weeks if you're the one who doesn't want there to be abortions and I'm the one who does, but neither of us want there to be abortions at 28 weeks?
Because I was referring to 28 weeks because before it sounded like you were saying that you value something that shows up at 20 to 24 weeks. And I'm saying that doesn't make sense because what you value doesn't even begin to show up until 28 weeks. But now that you're saying that you want to have it at 20 weeks to have precautionary abundance, and that's okay. But I'm saying my whole point in arguing this is that I'm trying to make you realize that the type of consciousness that you and I, or that I value, is not present necessarily until the baby is outside of the womb, until it's reaching the age of approximately 1 year old.
Earlier in this call, I said to you that if I was God or Laplace's demon or had clairvoyance about what was going on in someone's head, I would actually not be surprised if it's much later than we think. But because we can't understand that, I out of an abundance of caution to make sure that we don't harm anybody, that's the point where I'm willing to say the baby might be able to suffer. I'm sorry, person who this baby is growing inside of, you're going to have to finish this thing out because you've let it go too long. Now the suffering can happen or might be able to be happening. I'm okay with the suffering maybe happening. If the suffering is maybe happening, then we have to restrict the rights of the woman to her own body. And that's where we put the cutoff. So I don't understand your argument at this point in the conversation. It sounds like you agree with me.
I agree with you. However, I'm just saying that it doesn't necessarily make sense to me because I feel like the early philosophers, early psychologists, they deemed consciousness as something entirely different than we deem it today.
The early psychologists were monsters. I want to listen to the current psychologists.
Okay, so if you listen to even current psychologists, the debate about when consciousness begins when it's fully formed, as you were saying, is not clear within anyone. So I don't understand why we're holding to arbitrary points when life begins at conception. I think that we just need to recognize that life begins before
conception. I think that the egg and the sperm are both metabolically alive, and that the only time I think that life only started once on Earth. It's something called abiogenesis. We don't know exactly how it happened, like at the beginning of the tree of life. I don't think it's meaningful to say that life begins at conception. When we call a person who is brain dead, we could scoop an entire person's brain out with an ice cream scooper, but keep them alive with machines and they'd be brain dead, but metabolically alive. But you'd recognize that that person probably doesn't have consciousness. And those are the sorts of people that we unplug. Maybe people who've been underwater for long enough that their brains have died, but their bodies survived because the water was cold, right?
So you believe that life begins before conception?
Is a sperm alive in the metabolic sense that a brain dead patient is?
Well, brain dead patient is no longer alive because
they're metabolically alive. Their cells are still metabolizing. ATP is still happening. Oxygenation is still happening. Necrosis is not happening. That's what metabolically alive is. A tree is metabolically alive. A sperm is metabolically alive in the same sense as a zygote, right?
Okay, so what's your point in saying that?
What happens? So the sperm is alive. The egg is alive. The two come together. Why is that important?
Because human DNA is formed.
Okay. So what?
DNA. Because that's what makes us human is our unique human DNA. I think if someone
the skin cells that you wash off in the shower have unique human DNA. What does it matter? Who cares?
So you think that if something possesses
what does DNA have to do with suffering? Because my entire ethical framework is based on suffering. What does it I recognize that that's the moment when we learn what a person's DNA makeup is going to be. That's important. That tells us what probably roughly they're going to look like. I think that probably tells us a lot about what type of person they're going to be because we are all unique. And I do think a lot of our character qualities come from the unique combination of genetics that we get. Quite thankfully, those things don't happen to be correlated with things like race. Otherwise, the racists would be right. It's not logically impossible for the racists to be right. They just happen not to be, thankfully. But yeah, what's so important about that? Who cares? Where's the suffering?
I'm saying that if someone has human consciousness, but they lack DNA, human DNA, I would not value that the same way that I value you and I having this conversation. I think that silly. If consciousness is present, how is that silly?
You're saying, wait, I want to make sure I understood you correctly. You're suggesting that if a person didn't have human DNA, but they did have consciousness, you wouldn't value their suffering?
I wouldn't value them the same way that I don't value animal suffering the same way that I value human suffering.
Sure, I think but I do value it. It has nothing to do with DNA. It has to do with the capacity for suffering.
So you think that anything that has the capacity for suffering, if we go out and unalive it, then that is entirely wrong?
Not necessarily. We have to weigh the suffering. Like, for example, if I was in the ocean spearfishing and a shark attacked me, I would defend myself, even though the shark would probably suffer if I shot it in the face with my harpoon gun. But that's just self-defense. We make the same argument for people. People can suffer. If somebody attacks me, I'm allowed to defend myself. So this is just like, we weigh it.
So what's wrong when I'm eating chicken and steak because the weight options of me eating something is not greater than that of me?
I'm on the edge of becoming an ethical vegetarian because I really do I feel conflict about that one. I think that for most of human history, it's been obvious that we can, like, if we can accept that we value human suffering higher than animal suffering, which I do think is reasonable. As somebody who loves animals, I do think that's reasonable. For most of human society, it's been pretty straightforward that we need meat as part of the equation, but we're just getting too prosperous. It's also kind of wasteful at this scale because of the tropic levels involved, because of the amount of food that we need to grow to feed the animals that we eat. It's just kind of wasteful. So even from a non-suffering perspective, like, yes, there's lots of nuanced conversations about that. Do infants or do unborn children at 20 weeks suffer, though? How have we gotten so far away from that question?
Because you kind of bring up a lot of things, and honestly, if I dived into your philosophical framework, I think I would find a lot of flaws within it. Because if you believe that the first life that we come from evolution, and evolution is the byproduct of survival of the fittest, and everyone is just going out of their way to survive for themselves, that produces mass suffering. And if people had that framework throughout society, then we would live in a society in which killing your neighbor is okay if it benefited you in a more substantial way. And I don't think that you would hold to that same sort of philosophy.
Yeah, I think you're drinking the Philbro Kool-Aid, young man. I think that if a neurologist were to listen to this call, he'd find a lot of problems with what you've said. Do you think that's fair to say?
I mean, I think if a person that studies and has their doctorates in it listen to both of I talk about a subject matter that we're not fully have knowledge about, then yeah, they would say that.
I'm sorry. Do you think that a neurologist would listen to this call and think that I'm the one talking out of my ass? Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm saying, yeah, he would have flaws in what you have said and what I have said.
I bet I've said something wrong that a neurologist would go, well, actually, it's you said something a little wrong there. But in general, who do you think that a neurologist would think is like winning the debate in this conversation? Who do you think that the neurologist would, if a neurologist was watching this, who would they think has read more books about neurology, me or you?
I mean, I think I would, because I was trying to give you a case-by-case scenario of each person in each case that has been evaluated fully by neurologists.
You prepared some talking points. You wrote them down. You didn't even want to get into the specifics. Yeah, you prepared some talking points. You wrote them down. You didn't know how to pronounce them. Some of the words that you didn't know how to pronounce, I knew how to pronounce, because even unprepared for the conversation, I do have a background knowledge about biology and neurology. I think that I don't actually usually say it out loud. I think you're right in the middle of that Dunning-Kruger effect. I think that you've read enough to think that you have a comprehensive understanding of this, and that's making you.
I don't think I have a comprehensive understanding at all.
I think that what I'm arguing is that I think that your understanding of the subject matter is less comprehensive than you think that it is. I don't have a comprehensive understanding of it. I have a basic understanding of it.
I don't either.
But I work really hard to operate within the scope of exactly how good my understanding of something is, and I don't feel like I'm talking to somebody who understands neurology very well.
I don't understand neurology yet well. That's why I'm trying to get more information to give that side-by-side comparison. And I think that if we leave high talking points up just to the experts, it creates a division for conversations like this.
No,
because
I didn't say that we have to leave the talking points to the experts. Yeah. I'm saying that you have to demonstrate that you understand your own talking points, and you have failed to do that.
How have I failed to do that again? Because I've provided you with the information that I've been talking about the entire debate.
But they keep being insubstantive in terms of my concern. Like, for example, you brought up an example about the amount of neurological activity instead of the type and location of that neurological activity, which is what matters for a neurologist assessing whether or not a being is capable of experiencing consciousness or suffering or anything at all. Yeah. Okay. That to me demonstrates that you're looking at this stuff and you're looking through it. You're looking at this neurological information that you're taking in and this philosophical information that you're taking in through a lens of confirmation bias. I think that you don't want abortion to be allowable for some exterior reason that we haven't gotten to, and that you look at this stuff to pilfer for talking points instead of what you should do if you think that neurology is important to making a reasonable decision about abortion, which is that you should not read anything about neurology that has anything to do with abortion. You should just go buy a book on neurology and read it. That's what I did.
So for me, when I'm talking to people who hold different views than I do, I have to hold to something that they value. You value neurological activity. That's not something I necessarily. Okay, you value suffering.
Yeah, again, you right there. You're kind of showing that not only are you not grasping the subject matter very well, you're not even grasping my argument very well.
I'll ask you a question though.
Mm-hmm.
Because how does that suffering begin to exist? What are you You don't just think that, okay, suffering exists now. Why do you think that suffering exists at some point? You would say it exists because of neurological activity or something but
they're not the same. But because there can be neurological activity without suffering, I value the suffering, not the neurological activity. You're looking at the wrong circle in the Venn diagram.
Okay, but you have to realize that what are we talking about right now? We're talking about human suffering. We're talking about human suffering, why infants are in the womb. And in order for there to be suffering, there has to be neurological activity.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm combining the two.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why I'm combining the two things. I can't just be looking for suffering, because suffering doesn't exist without the neurological activity when we're talking about infants in the wombs. That's why I'm holding to neurological activity.
But you can still have neurological activity without suffering. You recognize that, right?
Yes, I do recognize that.
Then why did you say what you just said?
Because, again, I am saying that you and I are both talking about human suffering in regards to neurological activity. When we're looking inside of the womb, we're not looking for just suffering. We're looking for something that possesses neurological activity, because without neurological activity, there cannot be suffering when we're talking about it within the womb.
See, Chad's upset.
Outside,
what is this? You're starting back at the beginning? Did you run out of talking points?
Because you're equating
the Coke chuckle's coming out like, yeah.
You're equating two things.
You're saying
that you're equating them.
You're equating them.
You're equating something outside of the womb. You're equating something outside of the womb and inside of the womb. You're saying that can there be neurological activity without suffering? I'm saying within the womb, there has to possess both. Outside of the womb, they could possess one without possessing the other.
That's
However,
nonsense.
Inside of the womb, they must possess both.
That's fucking nonsense. Where'd you get that?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you're purposely doing this or not. Are you being serious or not?
I want to make sure I understand what you just said. You're saying that in the womb, there has to be both. And you're saying out of the womb, there doesn't? What do you mean? What are you talking about?
I'm saying that according to your own logic, if we look outside of the womb, someone could possess neurological activity and they wouldn't possess the ability for suffering.
Yeah, like a brain dead person who has some neurological activity. Yeah, I think and I think exactly the same thing is true of an undeveloped unborn child, like a zygote, an embryo, a fetus in the early stages of development. That's what I'm.
You think that they possess neurological activity?
Some. I think the neurological activity is a prerequisite requirement for the suffering, so the neurological activity comes first. It develops in the developing child.
Okay. So now you're going back to my point. You keep switching your argument. So when do you think that this neurological activity is present?
Sorry, chat. Let me know. Consistent or inconsistent? Is my position on this consistent or inconsistent? Just let me know.
It's a little bit inconsistent.
How?
Because you keep saying that you don't value neurological activity within the womb. But in order for suffering to exist, there must be neurological activity.
Right, but so I value suffering. No,
but you value suffering.
You're trying to use the transitive property to apply my care from suffering to neurological activity because neurological activity is required for suffering, which is nonsense.
Let me say it again. So when I'm saying that I'm holding to neurological activity, because that is the only way for us to have a productive conversation, you would say,
no, it isn't. That's nonsense.
I should not be talking about neurological
that's not
activity.
a good rule for this conversation. Neurological activity is required for suffering. I care about suffering. Just because there is neurological activity does not mean that there is suffering there. If I'm looking at a case where there's neurological activity but not suffering, I don't care because the only thing I care about is suffering. How is that not consistent?
Give me an example like that within the womb that happens before 20 to 24 weeks, where there is neurological activity, there is no suffering, and you would therefore not value it. Because from my own understanding,
the moment the first pair of neurons exist, the first two nerve cells that develop, because we start with one single cell, the fertilized egg, and then that becomes the little zygote, the little ball of cells, the blastule or whatever it's called, where it's like a little sphere, and then the hole forms in the sphere, and one end of it becomes your mouth, and the other end of it becomes your anus, and then it turns into this little thing. Somewhere along the way, the first nerve cell happens, and I would even argue that once the first one's there, that's still not neurological activity. Neurological activity is the communication between two nerve cells. So if you have two nerve cells, and one of them pings the other with a little zoop, a little sodium synapse activity, we go, wow, that's neurological activity. Are you suggesting to me that those two neurological cells, those two nerves, are capable of suffering because they exist? Is that your argument?
No. So now
okay.
I want to clear it up. So thank you for providing that. That makes more sense now.
Please clear it up.
So no. I'm saying that explanation helped me understand your position more. So now, what is the exact thing that you were looking at in neurological activity that would then grant suffering to exist?
It's not that it grants it to exist. The suffering is either happening or it's not. And the neurologists study with fMRI imaging they make an assessment about whether or not the brain structures that we're pretty sure are required for consciousness and suffering are even hooked up yet. And until they are, I don't think that we can have that type of suffering. Again, I don't think that ants suffer when you step on them. I don't think they have enough neurological activity I don't think they have the structures necessary for consciousness. That's like an edge case. I wouldn't die on that hill. I'm not confident. I wouldn't bet my life on that. But we do have to make a determination at some point. And before 20 weeks, I just don't think it's reasonable to suggest. But again, you seem really stuck on this thing about neurological activity. You recognize that the two nerve cells, once the second nerve cell exists and it communicates with the first one, that's neurological activity. That's required for suffering. But it's clear you admitted that there's no suffering at that point, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
But then that's a precise, exact, direct counter argument to what you're trying to argue about my position being that I'm tangling up suffering and neurological activity, when the simple fact of the matter is that just because something is required for something that I care about doesn't mean that I care about that. Water is necessary for life on Earth. Do you agree?
Yes.
Does a glass of water have rights?
No.
Okay. Is neurological activity required for suffering?
Yes.
Then does something that has neurological activity necessarily have rights?
No.
That's my argument.
Okay. So if you're saying you value at 20 to 24 weeks and you say that we should reduce overall human suffering, if the person that is bearing the child at 20 to 24 weeks is just in so much turmoil, they're just so devastated by the fact, and they're just really suffering. It's destroying their family life, which in turn is affecting their kids. I understand. I understand what you're saying, and this is a new thing on top of your previous points. So I'm saying, and this person that is bearing the child is
hold on. If we are, I am so happy to give my entire the rest of my show to a 20-year-old who's as misguided as yourself. But if we are going to change topics that aggressively, I am going to read the messages from the donors.
What do you mean change topics? We're on the same exact topic at the same exact 20 to 24 weeks. I'm not.
No, we were talking about this necessary versus sufficient thing about whether neurophysiology and neurological activity is required for suffering, and we got to this. Yeah, and then you started talking about an edge case that's further along than all of that, and we can get to that in just a moment. But I'm just recognizing it as a pivot, and I am going to insist that I read out the donors because they pay my bills. Can I do that? You can answer that question. We can discuss that after I read the donors. Can I read the donors? They're paying for you to be able to have this conversation with me. Can I read their messages, please?
Yeah, go for it.
Thank you. Maggie sent me $5 on Venmo to say, love the analogy about trees and abortions. Yeah, I like that one. I've been working on polishing up exactly how to deliver that one. I think it's working. I think it's doing work today. I wish it was doing work for more than just the audience. Michael Unmuted, who I hope to... He sent... Michael, I was supposed to buy you the beer this evening. Why are you sending me $5? I'm just going to spend it on the beer for you this evening when we run into each other. We're having some IRL stuff happen, so that's very exciting. Viability originally was 26 weeks, then 24, now 22. It's going backwards. Yeah, viability, I recognize as a thing that has been getting earlier because of advances to modern medicine. That doesn't affect when the suffering starts, though. Thank you, Michael Unmuted, for the $5. I will spend it on a beer for you this evening. Kara sent me $1 to say, what? The Casey quoted, she did not have any surgery replacing anything. Her parents fought her husband for a while to be on life support. Her spouse finally won and was removed off support, and she passed away, which is what she wanted. Didn't want to be in a constant vegetative state. Yeah, I'd be interested to, if you're going to bring up case studies, given that people have been calling your bullshit the whole time, caller, I am going to start Googling them live on the show, and we're going to see if you're characterizing them honestly, or if you're reading an unfair characterization of them off of some anti-abortion website. I think you're getting your neurological data from anti-abortion activists, not from neurologists. We can investigate that in a moment. Sean sent me... I'm not done reading the donors. Sean sent me $5 to say there is no ethical vegetarian. Hot take. Maybe he's a vegan. Maybe you have to be a vegan to be ethical. And maybe you do. I'm like kind of on the edge on that one. What do we got? We got Jacob says, oh yeah, Jacob's got a super interesting point for $5 over on Cash App. He says that cancer has a unique DNA. That's right. Because, sorry, I'm itchy. Been petting my dog. Now I touched my nose. I'm going to get all sniffly. Noodle. Stop giving me your dander. Anyway, yeah, because when cancer forms, it's a genetic mutation that causes like a growth disorder where like the cells regenerate faster than they should, and that's what a tumor is. So if you value unique DNA, do you value tumors? Interesting question. We'll see if the caller wants to address that. But there's a bunch more here for me to read. If I can, oh my gosh, if I can get my thing to work. Nothing is working today. Why is my chat not working? Give me just a moment. There we go. Fan funding. There we go. Love how you stay on topic. Mayor Oscar for mayor, for $2. Thank you, Marsh Maxwell. Butt Mustard said my boss would be pissed if he found out I was watching this right now. Anyway, here's $5. Thank you, Butt Mustard. The Great J. There we go. I'm reading backwards. Thank you, The Great J. But I read yours earlier. Chrono sent me $5 to say another man jumping in to say, caller, even if you were right, why do you think you'd have to have a say? You're never going to be a mother or a father, probably. Burn. Tavi Badir sent $5 to say, perfect example of why this should be between the person and their doctor. I agree. Choker Tape sent $5 to say, parsing all this out implies that the caller respects math science at a high enough level to understand that findings of peer-reviewed studies are valid. Yeah, we're getting there. He doesn't seem to actually respect the science he's trying to use to argue for his point. Katie sent me $2 on YouTube Super Chat to say, I should get to control this caller's body too then. Yeah, he's making some bad arguments. I don't think he'd like these arguments applied to his rights. There's also suffering of the child being born into an environment incapable of supporting the needs of that child. Yeah, I weigh that too. I think it's so unethical that we, people who so staunchly defend, like pro-life policies, like don't have any fucking plan for feeding these kids. Why is it the same people who want to reduce SNAP benefits? What the fuck? Thank you very much for Mirrorsphere for the $5 on YouTube Super Chat. I'm just going to pop back over to my phone and make sure nothing came in while I was reading. And while I do that, I will remind everybody that if you want to contribute, you can do that by finding the links in the link tree in my bio, Venmo, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, or Patreon. I should check the Buy Me a Coffee because people keep donating money to that and I keep missing it because I don't get so much on there. Anyway, follow the other platforms and follow Oskar Quentin too for when this account gets banned so I can keep talking about issues. Okay, caller, where are we going?
So I'd like to mention something from your donors that were just kept roasting me because they're saying that I'm trying to control people's bodies. You realize that some people in your chat would grant it morally okay for them to abort the fetus all the way up until 9 months. So according to their logic, you would also be controlling their bodies because you think that at 20 to 24 weeks, after that, it is wrong. So all the people in the comments who are saying that I'm controlling your bodies, he's also controlling your bodies because you guys aren't going to be able to get abortions under his own logic after 20 to 24 weeks. So he's also controlling your body. So I hope you guys take that out on him as well.
Okay. Next.
Yeah. I mean, you think it's funny, but like,
no, it's not.
You realize that under your own logic, you're also controlling people's bodies because there is a huge number of people who think it is okay to abort children up until 8 or 9 months. So under your own law, okay, then you're controlling their bodies.
Because I value the body of the unborn at that point. Right. Well, we have to controlling their bodies. We have to control people's bodies. That's true, actually. Yeah, like if you want to use your body to like make a circle with your hand and put a knife in there and then use the hand to plunge the knife into my chest, we say no, your body is not allowed to do that. Not allowed. Oscar will suffer if you do that. Oscar will suffer if you plunge a knife into his abdomen. You are not allowed. That's controlling your body, no?
Yep, you're controlling their bodies, and they're probably pissed at you now. Wow, yeah. Look at the comments. They are a little bit angry at you.
Chat, are you mad at me? Yes or no? Let me know. Chat's recorded, by the way. The YouTube VOD's going to have the chat on the screen. Are you aware of that?
Okay. What does that have to do with anything?
Because you're saying that the chat's mad at me, but can we? Okay, everybody who's not mad at me, shut up. Thank you, I love you all, but do shut up. If you are mad at me, tell me that you are mad at me in the chat and tell me why. You're grasping at straws, dude, and I'm putting it on display. That's why I'm doing this. Because you're pretty cornered in this conversation, and you're just declaring that my chat is mad at me. Who? What did you see? What did you see in the chat? What are you talking about?
Someone said Oscar W guest before.
Congratulations. There's let's see. How many people are watching?
How many people are requesting? And how many people are requesting to join?
We've got Diava Talks. I don't think you want to talk to her. She will be mean to you. And we have Sean, and we have Baby PRXS. Oh, bunch of people showing up in the. We've got 5, we've got 6. Yeah, people are showing up in the queue because you mentioned it. What does this have to do with what you're talking about?
No, I'm saying so. Out of everyone that's watching, there's 5 people who are willing to debate you and go against your talking points. So I'd say that the majority, if not 90% of people in here are supportive of your ideas. So even if there's just a few people saying that
you said that the chat was mad at me. Was that a lie? Were you lying on my show?
When
Not allowed.
When I'm glanced down, I'm just saying that people will think that you are controlling their bodies, and you have to be okay with that.
Do people want to hear Diava? I might be done taking this guest seriously. Do people want Diava? Let me know in the chat. Diava is a woman, and it would probably be nice to have a woman in this conversation.
Why would it be nice to have a woman in this conversation?
Oh, you don't think it's valuable to have a person affected by the policies we're talking about in a conversation?
I think that anyone can discuss any talking points, and it's reasonably deemed.
Do you value the perspectives of people who are going through issues when it comes to discussing them reasonably?
Yeah, but I don't think that a children that is being killed unethically, if someone comes up and says that they are going through it themselves, but they're unaliving someone who is innocent and pure, I don't really care if it's a man or a woman because they're still unaliving the same person.
I'm going to let Diava handle that one. How you doing, Diava?
Hi. I do find it interesting he doesn't want a woman up here.
I didn't say that. I'm saying I don't care if it's a man or a woman.
Yeah, he doesn't value a woman's perspective on abortion. I think that's a red flag.
No.
You absolutely positively never spoke about the woman in any of your scenario, any of your talking points. You didn't talk about the mother, the woman's body that's being used to make sure that parasite they have to use my resources in order to grow. So if I don't want that parasite to use my body, my resources, I shouldn't have to be forced by some fucking man.
Then use that same logic after 20
I don't allow men to speak over me, so you must be fucked up. I ain't Oscar. So what you need to do is now be quiet. You've been talking for an hour. Mind your business. Number one, no doctor, no one on this fucking planet does an abortion at 8 or 9 weeks. That's just called childbirth. Okay? That's childbirth. Childbirth. No one does it. No one. There's not a doctor on this planet that's going to be like you walking in at 9 months pregnant, like, you know what? I just don't want to do this. So just go ahead and let's just do an abortion real quick.
But it's your body.
It's called birth.
Do it. It's your body.
No, that's called birth because it's viable by then, you noodle. My God, they're so dumb, Oscar.
It's viable at 20 weeks.
Do you want me to tell you?
It's viable at 20 weeks.
Oh, he's laughing because this is really funny. Did you almost die Have you almost died in childbirth?
It's viable at 20 weeks, so use that.
Have you almost died in childbirth?
I've never given birth, no.
Yeah, I have. Okay. I almost died in my last pregnancy. I was pregnant with twins. Okay. I was 27 weeks when I went into labor. 27. Okay. They kept giving me shot after shot after shot after shot to keep me from going into labor to see if we could keep the babies in a little bit longer. Until my heart started failing. And they said, we can't give you the shots anymore, or you won't make it. Right? So I'm not going to make it. So then you have a choice to make, right? What do you do in that situation, Charlie? Tell me what you would do.
I feel like you're being pro-life under this circumstance, but I would save your own life over the two babies, the two twins.
Okay, correct answer. Okay. And guess what? That's not a decision that you or a governor or a president or a Congress or anyone else should be making, because there's so many different things that can happen within a pregnancy that there isn't just a one size fits all answer at 20 weeks, 24 weeks, 27 weeks, 32 weeks, 24 weeks. That stuff is all nonsensical because things happen and you have to make decisions at the time.
Of course.
And that is between about a woman and her doctor. That's why men specifically should stay out of the conversation. And number two.
But was your doctor a man or a woman?
That's why.
So if you don't want to consult,
what the fuck does that have to do with a medical professional?
You're saying that you don't want to consult a man because it's on a man's duty. But if you're
I'm saying between a woman and her doctor.
Okay, and if the doctor happens to be a man, then you're okay with that.
Doesn't matter. Fine. Perfectly fine.
Okay.
What the government is not supposed to do is get in between my doctor and I.
And abortion laws would never have made you say that you had to keep the twins over saving your own life. That would never be under abortion. Abortion is not that. Abortion being pro-life.
In Texas, there's 0.
That's not true. To say that if given
you're
your
wrong.
same...
Nope.
To say that,
no, you're wrong. Nope. You're wrong, and I'm muting you. You're absolutely categorically wrong. You're absolutely wrong. Women are dying every single day. You are absolutely, positively wrong. Abortion is terminating a pregnancy. So let me just tell you, when I then had a C-section because one of my twins was dying, they consider that also is a type of abortion because they ended my pregnancy before the full term. They ended my pregnancy by doing a C-section. They still terminated my pregnancy. Okay, I was no longer pregnant once they did the C-section. Okay?
I'm saying that...
And yes, and my twins they both survived, even the one that was unaliving. He was only 2 pounds and in NICU for months. He wasn't born well. He wasn't born, oh, goody, we get to just take him home. And I had over $1 million hospital bill. But then you Republicans, especially the Trump supporters, they don't want, after the baby's born, who gives a fuck? You can't afford it? Tough shit. You can't afford food? Tough shit. You can't afford formula? Tough shit. You guys are not pro-life at all. You guys are pro-forced birth. All you want is that goddamn baby born, and you don't give a shit after it's born. Because your policies reflect that you don't care once it's born. Or there would be parental leave, paid parental leave. There would be free childcare. There would be free WIC. There would be formula for those that can't afford it without having to grovel and be damned or destitute in order to be able to qualify for it.
I agree. Can I talk at all, or am I not going to be able to talk?
You talk for like an hour. So I'm just filling you in. There is too much. There is too much that can go wrong at all different levels and all different weeks. A woman's life is never more in danger than when she's pregnant.
Okay. Can I say something? So I'm going to say that everything that you've said, I fully agree with. So I don't think that we're dating abortion right now. It sounds like we're agreeing on most talking points. I'm saying that I value life. You're saying that you value life. You're saying that you valued your life more than your twins. I'm saying that I valued your life more than your twins. I'm saying that you had to make a hard decision. You're saying that you had to make an extremely hard decision. I'm saying that after birth is given, we should value the lives of the infants the same as we value you and I. I think that Trump has done an awful job at providing that care, and I think that I fully disagree with him. So I think that you're coming up here and telling me your story, which I think is beautiful, but I don't think this has to do with being pro or anti-abortion. I think that we're recognizing that life is valuable, and you had that life at, what did you say, 27 weeks is when they were born?
I was able to keep them in until 32.
Okay, so 32 weeks. I'm saying that at the point of viability is, I think, around 22 weeks. And I'm saying that there is a large number of Democrats and a large number of liberals, a large number of progressives that think it is okay after 20 weeks to get an abortion. All I am saying...
It's none of your fucking business is all I'm having to say.
But I'm saying...
No, it's none of your business. It's not the government's business. It's not legislators' business. It's nobody's fucking business. The government should not be in. There is not a single emergency department that you cannot walk into in this entire country and all 50 states. And you walk in and say, oh my God, there's something wrong, something hurts really, really bad. That they have to go consult attorneys before they can fucking touch you. Okay? Women are dying left and right in this country because they're showing up at emergency departments, septic, all kinds of things, and the doctors don't know what to do. And in the states where you have to be on the verge of death, they wait till you're on the verge of death, and sometimes they can't bring you back from that verge. Okay? There's not a single hospital or doctor in this country that will turn you away and say, we can't help you because we have to call our lawyers first. We have to do this first. You've been propagandized so hard by this rhetoric of the pro-life crowd, which only became a thing after the Brown of Board v. Education, because they no longer had that to run on. So they couldn't run on racism, so they had to switch to something else. So then they suddenly went pro-life to gin up some more fear. No. So what you need to do is shut your fucking mouth when it comes to abortion. It is no one's business.
So Oscar,
women
don't talk
should
about
not
it
be
anymore.
second-class citizens in this country. Period. We should have the same rights you do. We have a medical complication with our pregnancy. We should be able to walk into any hospital and receive treatment. Period.
Okay, so Oscar, so you don't think that Oscar should be talking about it because some women think it is okay to get an abortion after 20 weeks. So he is
Oscar
also
uplifts the opinions of women.
So Oscar, you are no longer able to talk about the topic because you are a man and you do not possess the capability to become pregnant. So I'd like you to no longer discuss this on your platform. And I think that we should move on from this topic because we cannot talk about it because we are not women.
This topic. Yes, correct. That's why men should not be having this conversation, and you should see your way out of it.
I'm utterly joking. That is the dumbest thing ever. You would not, 90% of the conversations you have in your daily life, no longer talk about them because you do not possess the capabilities. You do not...
Do you have a uterus?
No.
It will never affect you. You have no business talking about it.
Okay. I could say the same thing.
What you want to do is control women and control women's bodies.
Do you have a doctor's degree?
No, you
don't. So don't talk about it. Don't talk about the issue, please.
May I interrupt your monologuing?
Yes. Go ahead.
Hi. So I just wanted to come up and point out the fact that you did agree with the fact that Diava was able to get the health care she needed in her instance with her twins. That is an abortion. It's an induced abortion that leads to birth.
Correct.
Okay, that has nothing to do with any of the talking points that I've said throughout this entire debate.
Republicans are trying to ban all abortions.
I'm saying that if you go into any hospital within the United States, and if you had someone who was dying of almost giving birth to their children,
but that line of
that
you're
would be
dying
okay.
shouldn't have to be reached for a woman to receive health care.
I'm saying that there is a huge difference of someone almost losing their life while giving birth to their children.
Before you will
I'm saying that there is death. There is 1.2 million deaths each and every year. There will be circumstances, as there are circumstances of someone in a vegetative state.
That a doctor can see symptoms coming, see a group of symptoms and say this is most likely going to lead to death.
Yes, and I think it is up to the woman to decide.
So when a doctor says that, why can they not give the health care? Why do they have to wait until they say, you are dying?
I'm saying that I agree with you that if those symptoms are progressing,
but the conservative standpoint says that doesn't matter.
And I'm saying that I guess I go against the conservative standpoint. However, I'm not equating these two things.
So you're pro-choice.
I'm not equating these two things. I'm thinking that there are definitely some circumstances.
The fact that you're not equating them is the problem.
Correct. That's the whole problem. No.
Can I explain my point?
No, I have a question for you.
Just keep talking over me.
Yes, I will.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. You're very welcome. You don't deserve any grace. Okay. Can you please tell me, let's just yes or no, are men 100% responsible for all unwanted pregnancies?
I don't think you're in a position to talk about men because you're not a man and you do not possess those capabilities. So please, let's not bring up men. Let's just focus on each and our own individual.
Don't be disingenuous, you little shit.
I consent. We can talk about men.
No, I didn't consent though.
Okay.
And I think that we should just talk. I did not consent.
So I do believe, I don't care if you consent because we know Republicans don't care about consent anyway. But just so you know, I think that all boys, when they hit the age of puberty, should have to have mandatory vasectomies, and they can only get them reversed when they can prove that they are emotionally, financially, and otherwise able to care for, to have these children, so that there would be no unwanted pregnancies if every single young man had a mandatory vasectomy. And that way, the only births that would happen would be intentional because they'd have a reversal and it would be planned. And so I think mandatory vasectomies is the answer. Do you agree?
I think that sex should only be saved in regards to producing.
Nobody cares about your bullshit, your moral majority.
That's absurd to say as well. Sex is a basic human experience.
Yeah, and I think that if you engage in sex, you should also know that the possibilities of are.
He's too immature. He's too immature for this conversation.
Yeah, that's wild.
I think it's funny that you guys came up here and just talked the entire time and then muted me and then don't want to hear my points.
I gave you a perfectly good shot, Charlie. Come on.
There you go.
You had an hour, my guy. Shut up. Quit whining.
Oh, okay. You guys are very hostile.
You're very immature.
You're trying to enact policies that you don't even understand the
Thank you.
impact.
I've answered all of your questions and I've pushed you guys back.
I have a question, Charlie. I have a question, Charlie. I have a question. Can I ask a question?
I don't know if you can because I don't want to talk about abortion because we're both men. So if it's about abortion, I don't feel comfortable.
It's a little meta. It's about talking about abortion because you said that the two women on the call shouldn't be talking about men. Why the fuck were you and I talking about abortion for an hour before they showed up? What the fuck?
I was literally joking. That was a complete and utter
so you're disingenuous.
Yeah.
Of course it's a joke.
Which thing is a joke? Can you
say the word that you were disingenuous?
Because he's immature, like I said.
You think a joke is disingenuous?
You're being disingenuous considering we're on a debate platform, not a comedy open mic.
Was that supposed to be funny or?
No, that was supposed to be factual.
No, your frontal cortex has your frontal cortex.
I'm autistic. I do the blend.
Yeah, you're right. My frontal cortex has not fully developed. You are completely right. Good job.
So you don't have the critical thinking that necessary for this conversation, which is why I'm saying that you're too immature for the conversation.
It sounds like you think that other people who do not possess the same capabilities as your own should not discuss. Can we
get off this disingenuous topic and get back on something actually constructive?
So if I'm not a woman, I can't talk about women's rights.
Yes.
If I am not a doctor,
that's why I don't talk to men about it. Yep, that's why I don't talk to men about abortion. This is precisely why I refuse.
Charlie, what do you think about sexual intercourse with birth control being used? It's not for production. It's purely for enjoyment.
I think men should go to jail if they use a sock instead of because they're taking away the potential of life. So if you do it in a sock, I think you should go to jail.
Wait, so why do you guys keep asking me questions? Because I'm not a woman, so I shouldn't be able to talk about this under your own logic. So let's move on because you guys get mad when a man
disingenuous when cornered.
You get mad when a man answers and talks about it, but then you keep asking a man questions about the same topic.
Openly disingenuous and then digging into it.
Huh. So that's a little interesting.
You're proving the point of why men shouldn't be in this discussion actively and in real time.
So, Oscar, you want Oscar to no longer talk about abortion?
Oscar uplifts the opinions of women and fights for the stances.
So what you're saying, you're not saying that you don't want men to not. You're not saying that you don't want men not to talk about abortion. You're saying that you will have men talk about abortion if, in fact, it is on your same side.
Men who don't understand
talk about it if they agree with you.
If it's on the side of least harm, you don't consider the harm that's being done to women in this instance. So that's why we don't think you should speak on it.
It's talking to men.
Leave out a group of people when considering these laws.
So if they agree with you,
quiet, piggy. It's men who don't understand that should not be allowed to speak about it.
I think I'm going to jump in here and say, if you want to talk with a man about this experience, I can definitely talk about the experience as a man with a uterus. Not that Charlie necessarily wants to talk about it.
As a man with a uterus?
Yes.
Oh, you just blew his mind apart.
Little does he know he's been speaking to a woman with a penis.
And a woman that was born with a vagina. You've got all three of us. You got the whole trifecta right here. What question do you have, Pookie Bear?
Wait, so if you're a man with a uterus...
Are we about to create Exodia right now?
So if the person with a man that has a uterus, they're also not allowed to talk about abortion?
They have a uterus.
Under your guys' logic? But no. You said it was a man. You said
why I asked you. No. Remember, do you remember I asked you earlier if you had a uterus? You said no. No. Earlier I asked you. I asked you if you had a uterus. You said no. And I said, then you shouldn't be talking about it.
You said men.
I did, and then I specifically asked you if you had a uterus. And you said no.
You're changing your point.
No, I asked you that. I didn't change a thing.
As someone that lives with this weird paradox, I think that the majority of people mean cis men when they say men.
Correct.
Descriptive, not prescriptive.
He's very cornered right now.
Doesn't understand descriptive versus prescriptive.
Did he run?
Correct. He ran. Sisters unite. Sisters
Gender
unite.
Exodia took him down. Instant win.
Awesome job, guys.
That was fun. I try to run a show where when a young person calls in, I give them every chance imaginable to demonstrate that they aren't an irredeemable piece of garbage. So thanks, guys, for taking the reins. I didn't feel like yelling at that kid.
You gave him plenty of opportunity, and he could not grasp anything you were saying. It was the most frustrating conversation I've ever listened to on this live, and that's not a judgment to you, Oscar, but it was so frustrating because he just wouldn't get it. And he was so into the nuance that he didn't even know what he was arguing anymore. Like he was just didn't know what he was doing.
I still think I wish I could have pinned him down more on the whole fact that what you got was an abortion. And like the fact that he just admitted that he doesn't actually agree with the conservative stance.
Correct.
Because I'm a firm believer that when we get like late term abortions, most of the time that is for a medically necessary thing for everyone involved.
It's birth. It's
Nobody's going to go as far as picking out a crib, decorating a room, having a name, and preparing for a family, and then just be like, you know what? Fuck it. Never mind.
Right.
It's not a thing. And doctors ethically would never do it. There is no doctor ever.
I don't believe in putting that much red tape around that to make it harder for people that need that done. Like, we've been seeing more and more stories about that.
Right. It's already devastating. Why make it harder?
Well, I agree. And it's just, they just don't understand. There's so much part of it. There's just things that can happen at any different level of pregnancy that you just having an arbitrary laws is why it doesn't work, which is why
he's still in the chat. He's mad. Why?
Raven broke him, huh? Raven broke him.
Yeah.
I figured that would make him big mad.
I don't think you can type this fast. I think ChatGPT is helping.
Women get to talk about this. Surprise, surprise.
It's almost like intersectionality matters.
Right.
Oh, man.
It's almost as if.
It's almost like this whole birth control debate is just being used also to control other groups of the population.
Wow.
Specifically not cis men.
Did you know that they had a birth control for men, and they did a study on it, and they had people volunteer to do this study, and the men were having such bad adverse reactions to it. And actually, if you read the study, their adverse reactions were like mood swings,
headaches,
all the stuff that women deal with on birth control. The men couldn't hack it, and they stopped it, and they never developed the drug any further for the men because they couldn't handle the side effects that women deal with on a daily basis.
Just goes to show men can't handle being a woman.
Correct. And they want to call us the weaker sex and try to control us. Give me a break.
What a bizarre episode of my show this has been.
A little bit of misandry there at the end, but it's okay.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna read the donos and wrap it up. Do you guys have anything before
kick me?
Nah, you can kick us. Love ya.
Thanks for having me. Love you, chat.
W's in the chat for Diava, Raven, and Ezra, because I don't know. I tried. I gave him a shot, and then I sent the team after him, because that does happen sometimes when Oscar's done being polite to the guest. Is it just entertainment? I don't know. I would argue that if it's entertaining enough that it gets people watching the show, that's probably good for the rights of women, for people to see conversations like that one. Oh, where was I with the donations? I am sorry to everybody who let those slide in. I just wanted to let everybody cook. I was taking a little break there. Tavi sent, perfect example of why this should be between the person and the doctor. I already read that one. Choker Tape sent $5 to say, parsing all this out. I also already read that one, but thanks anyway, Choker, again for the $5. Where was I? Katie said for $2, I should get to control this college body too then. I know I've read a bunch of these out already, but I don't care. Mirror Sphere sent $5, saying there's also the suffering of the child being born into an environment incapable of supporting the needs of the child. Yeah, and then we said that that's, probably why we should have SNAP benefits and that sort of thing. NES Josh 64 sent $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say, I wonder if the caller thinks that the mother doesn't go through trauma when having an abortion, or if it's just a casual doctor visit. Yeah, the Great J sent $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say, there are fundamentally two separate arguments. One is the fetus is a person worthy of life, and two is should the mother have the autonomy to abort regardless of point one. Yeah, and then, they're just going to flip back and forth between the different ones to make it impossible to have the conversation. Tim Davidson for $5 on YouTube Super Chat said, caller, you have an opportunity to learn. You do not learn with your mouth, learn with your ears and brain. Use them. I don't think he actually understands what brains are for. He demonstrated that pretty thoroughly throughout the call. Kronos sent $10 on YouTube Super Chat to say, I hope this caller realizes how dumb all this is when it'll never affect him. Maybe spend more time listening to women and you'd get to touch one someday. Burn Kronos. W's in the chat for Kronos with a K. For $3 A. Is that Australian? Where are you from, Rohit? He said, clearly, Charlie is make-denless? Make-denless? I don't understand this word. I don't know where you're from, but I appreciate you because you sent me some money and you contributed to the show, and I love that. Thank you very much. Tim Davidson sent another $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say, caller, sex is irrelevant. There is an intellectual level one must reach to participate in this conversation. The majority of Republicans do not reach. Yeah, it's actually not about anybody being a man or a woman, because I am a man who talks about abortion rights all the time. It's about being sensible and respecting the plight of people. He said that he didn't value the woman's perspective because he thought it was only logic that could get you there. And my whole perspective is that it's the suffering of people that matter. And because women are the people who suffer because of abortion policy, we should listen to them and value them. If he doesn't see that, we're not talking the same language. Tavi Bidger sent another $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say, I mean, what's the point of being a professional when you can have Philbro poorly argument points with words they can't pronounce? Dude, him not being able to pronounce his own arguments was crazy work. That was truly hilarious. I'm going to give a shout out to Hector Talks, because he's in here and he blew up the gift goal while I was taking my break. So W in the chat for Hector Talks. Oh my God, Cash App. What's going on? Joseph, who donates every day, sent me another $10 on Cash App to say, another great show. Thank you very much, Joseph. And then over on Venmo, we got a bunch of small ones rolling, but I will read them out because I respect each and every single one of you. Where did I leave off? We read Kara. Hello, Kara. Thank you again for the $1. Got to reload to Sean. Did we read Sean? I don't remember. There's no ethical vegetarian. That's right. That was kind of a hot take, I think. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. Caitlin sent $10 to say, as someone who works in the veterinary field, it is, and then the message got cut off, but I've learned on Venmo that if I just open it again, let's see. Yes, it worked. As someone who works in the veterinary field, it is standard practice in breeding pets to prioritize the breeding female's health over that of her fetuses because the breeding female is valuable while the fetus has no guaranteed value. Yeah, and that's just maybe in a sense of like breeding and like doing that business, but I would just also argue in terms of suffering. That makes sense to me. Mamie sent me $2 to say if abortion's legality is questioned, it also affects non-pregnant women. 1 in 10 women will need a D&C in their life to save their life. This is considered an abortion even if there's no baby in there. I think maybe that donation came in before Diava talked about her experience with that. The caller doesn't care. Kara sent another donation of $1 to say, does he even know the female anatomy? How many holes below the waist? I should have asked him. We should have asked him some basic anatomy questions because he was such a neurophysiologist of the Reddit or 4chan variety. Francisco sent me $5 to say what? He said, congrats on the rapid growth. I've been working my way backwards through all your uploads and you've gotten so much better so quickly. Soon we won't be able to get our messages read. I am like genuinely a little bit sad about the fact that obviously I have to celebrate. It's fucking like incredible what's going on with me right now. This is like the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me in my life. But it's like I read fan mail every morning. I sit and lay in bed and drink my coffee and I like read messages, and I'm at a point where it's like it's not a good use of my time to respond to every single one of them, because a lot of them it's just the same like, oh my god, thank you so much, and I can't bring myself to copy and paste. So at this time, if you message me on something like Instagram, Instagram's the place to message me. That's the inbox I take care of. Facebook gets out of hand. TikTok, there's multiple accounts and I'm not always on here. It's if you want to like message me, Instagram's the way. And I do, if the message warrants a response, I'm still in a place where if you ask me a question, I will answer it. Maybe not always quickly, but it is a little sad that I know that there's people who like want more of my attention than I can offer, and that's just I'm sitting here complaining about becoming too big on this platform to be able to give everybody the attention I feel they deserve, because everybody who contributes deserves a little bit of my attention. I think that's important, but I'm losing track of it quickly. So thanks, everyone. It's fucking insane. I'm excited to meet some online people in real life tonight. That's happening. Some beers will be drank about some of the success. And like I said, the donations are not just for me anymore, because I am hiring some help to deal with all this to keep the thing growing. Because I do not want to sit in this chair and debate 2 hours a day and do nothing else for it. I want to debate 4 hours a day, and I want to do other things like the Sunday evening show that will happen at 7 p.m. Central Time on Sunday. I'm having Doug Chapin, who's trying to take away the 6th Congressional District in Minnesota from Tom Emmer, who totally sucks. But I also want to ask him some pretty hard questions, because maybe some of those concerns that first caller had, maybe I'm going to talk to Doug about some of those things and see what an actual person who might vote for Trump's impeachment has to say about it. Because of all that growth, I get to have serious conversations with actual politicians. I had a joke politician on last week, and I think maybe that was a stepping stone to get to have some more serious conversations and some more serious influence over what happens in American politics. I forgot when I started this that influencers are called that because they have influence. So the fact that politicians are paying attention to me is fucking wild. And what am I gonna do to answer what that first caller's concerns about? Well, I'm fucking working on it, dude. It's growing so fast. It's like I'm wrestling a fire hose. It's crazy. So I'm trying to do that stuff. And speaking of like being able to get my attention, if you do just want to have a more chill chat of the sort that sometimes happens at the end of the show, the members, the super fans on TikTok, wherever they're called different things everywhere. There's like subscribers on Facebook, they're members on YouTube, and then there's subscriptions on Instagram. If you buy one of those $5 subscriptions, it gets you into a members only stream that happens after the Sunday evening show, whenever it ends. It's not precise scheduling. But that's the idea there is that I just read the chat and hang out. It's not a public stream, so it's just chill. There's no engagement farming. There's no W's in the chat to farm engagement to get the live stream successful. If you want to hang out and talk about stuff and pick my brain on maybe stuff that doesn't make the main show, there's a place for that. We did it last week and it was a lot of fun, and I don't have to be sober for it either, which is kind of fun because it's a Sunday evening show. So I was drinking my apple juice instead of my coffee. If people know what I mean by apple juice, right? We're on TikTok. I can't talk about it. Anyway, thanks everybody. Crazy show today. I'll see you tomorrow, 10 o'clock Central Time, here on TikTok and YouTube Live. Goodbye, TikTok. See you tomorrow. And goodbye, YouTube. Thanks for hanging out.